This podcast contains explicit content.
This is Hardly Focused. Part of the Solid Listen Podcast Network.
Let's begin the show by starting it.
Ready? Yep. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. You're a talent. Oh, I'm talented, all right.
Yeah, that was not annoying in the least. Welcome to Hardly Focused. We're part of the Solid Listen Podcast Network. You can get us on hardlyfocused.com, on your favorite podcast app. We're on YouTube. My name is Jack, and joining me is someone that I've always wanted to do radio with, Mr. Ed Oliveira.
Oh, well, thank you. That's very kind words.
It's our first time.
I do notice you didn't open with one of my bits. You opened with Charlie, but whatever.
You're in there. I hear you laughing.
Yeah, I know, but yeah, what was mine? Like, it's terrible impressions. That was one of my classics. But no, that bit Charlie did illustrates his brilliance. I don't know. He came up with it on his own. He executed it on his own, and we were just along for the ride. And it really I love that one.
And then the yeahs ripped you guys off and said, hey, this would make a perfect melody and drum beat for a song.
Absolutely. He is when he's motivated, he's really good.
Despite that clip obviously being several years after Maps coming out.
Right. No, he had it in the archives. They somehow hacked him and history was made.
And this is our first time actually, I guess, virtually meeting, but we've been part of a group text for several months now, but you were part of the Sandbox on WFNX, which in Boston, a radio station, a very good radio station that is no longer. But a few months ago here on Hardly Focused, we had Charlie from the Sandbox.
The bald one.
Chris Padgett, who has got quite the beard now.
Oh, so he's got no hair and a great beard. I've got great hair and no beard. Can't grow a beard. I'd love to cover these extra chins. I just can't. It's kind of bullshit. But it's a podcast, right? I'm okay with that.
Go ham with.
Good, because I all those years of being on that show and not being able to, or on radio in general, it just builds up. And now I got kids that I can't swear in front of.
Yeah, life does not have a physical dump button.
It's funny. So one, I want to ask you first, since you said it, why would you want to do a show with me? What, because I'm an insecure person. That's why I went into radio. So to hear nice things about myself is always gratifying. But of the three, I am the least radio nerd between Fletcher, Charlie, and myself. Like, I was in it for good times talking. I didn't hold FNX in any regard because I was from the DC area. And Charlie had worked there previously, and Fletcher is just a radio nerd. Like, I got into it for the music and then the talking, and then like they were radio people, whereas I wasn't. So I'm probably, if there was a spectrum of radio folk, like I'm the least. I'm just some schmuck who like to run off at the mouth.
Well, first of all, you were around, so that's nice, and I appreciate that. But I've said it 100 times in the past. I'll say it again. For the 2.5 years the Sandbox was around, that was one of my favorite radio shows. And I'm coming from wanting to get into us because of Opie and Anthony, having it bolstered by what was at one point the Tucker and Rich show in Boston, and then just kind of finding different radio shows around the country, just as the advent of being able to listen on the internet was coming about in the mid 2000s, but then to find a show like the Sandbox in Boston on a radio station, I was right within that target demo to begin with. And the fact that you guys started as a podcast before podcasts were even really a thing.
It pisses me off so much how we were that far ahead of the curve and aren't millionaires.
I'm right there with you.
It's that not only the podcast, but we live streamed the show on our website. I had to buy special security cameras that We ran in studio. When I was making videos with flip cams and I was syncing up the on-air audio in like a bootleg Sony Vegas, like we were doing all this content that now is, social media and creators and all this content creators. We were doing that in 2006 and 7.
Yep.
And it makes me mad because I'm not rich.
I mean, I'm right.
But I think what made it great is it was real. Having been in this industry over 20 years, which makes me sound a billion, I've seen kind of how things work. And a lot of times the hosts don't like each other. They legitimately just kind of got paired up somewhere along the way and it worked. And that's it. They go to work, they do their show, they go their separate ways, and then they reconvene Monday through Friday. We were friends first. I mean, we worked together in Richmond, but Fletcher and I lived together in 2 different cities. He's my kid's godfather. I talk to Charlie and see him any time I'm in the area. I just saw them both recently. It's and I think that's what made it real and different. And we didn't know what we were doing. We were just like having fun and doing bits. And if it caught on, it caught on. Yeah.
And I've been doing podcasting since 2006 too, and a millionaire I am not. But having also worked in radio, I mean, technically for a hot minute, I guess we were competitors because I started working at WAF in 2008, and then on the morning show there in 2009. So probably for about the last 6 months at the Sandbox is around. Yeah, technically we were competing against one another. But you want to talk about like people hating each other? Holy crap! The Hillman Morning Show was an exercise in mental health. Like just watching, just how there was, let's say during the commercial breaks, just silence. People would just leave the studio and just go to just different parts of the building to be away, just to be away from each other. That's insane. We actually had to make each other be quiet because we didn't want to waste the good stuff. Because it would just, we'd turn off the mics and we would want to keep going and keep going. And the whole idea of the show was to do us, but invite everybody else in. And, it's, I don't want to sound cheesy, but it wasn't just listeners. Like you're a perfect example of it. And the guy who introduced me to my wife is a perfect example of it. He was like the green line. He would call in the WTF line. He invited me and Fletcher to his house for WrestleMania one year. And we're like, should we go? Are we going to get killed by a super fan? We went, hit it off. I attended his wedding. He attended mine because he introduced me to his wife months later, like, because they went to college together. It was just, we didn't know any better. And FNX was the perfect place for that because it wasn't a real radio station. In all the check boxes it was, but it's not like we had managers. I mean, we had air checks and Keith took the air part seriously, but the people above him were down, at Fenway. And we were up in Lynn, like inmates. Yeah. Just doing whatever we wanted. And the sales team was above us on another floor. So we were kind of we answered to Keith when it came to programming. And, Gary and others I'm not going to give last names. You go listen to Charlie's podcast for the full history. I worked with that guy briefly. I worked with him. Yeah, he's the best. He's an insane person, but he's the best. But it was that it wouldn't have happened anywhere else. We kind of got away with it a little when we were in Richmond, but they were smart enough not to give us our own show. Whereas we kind of hoodwinked FNX into being like, oh, we're a thing, we'll do this. And then the shenanigans came with us. Yep. Were you part of the bathroom prank with Mike Murphy? Oh, yes. I was on the other side of the wall. If you listen closely, you can hear me. Real quick history for those that don't know. We used to terrorize, and God bless Mike Murphy. He let us be creative. And that's, I think, what's missing in a lot of just media today, whether it's movies, radio. We've sucked the great creativity out of all of it to make everything make the margins. Got to make a certain percentage of profit, blah, blah, blah. There's no risks. There's no nothing. Everything is workshopped to death, and they put it in front of focus groups. But he let us be creative, and he shielded us from above. The suits above who were like, this station needs to be doing this, this, and this. He's like, okay, I'll make it happen. And then he just let us be creative. But whenever he went away, we would do something. And one time we built a non-working, but very good replica of a bathroom, complete with toilet paper holder, fake plants. And we had cut a hole in the wall so we could shoot film as he came in. So we had the hallway cam, which is what everybody's seen.
but there is unseen footage in Richmond, Virginia somewhere that needs to be unearthed from my buddy Busher. And if he could ever get it to me, we would see it from the other side of the wall.
I love how there has to be context to this, because when you hear a camera in a wall in the bathroom, that's going to get people's attention. Like, wait, what?
And we took up about 2/3 of his office and just put up fake walls, drywall, the whole shebang. I mean, we might have even painted it. I don't know. But it looked really good.
Oh, it would have been so funny, too, if you actually got, like, plumbing installed.
Right.
Like, we can't actually move this toilet. Like, it's actually
stuck here.
It's connected to a pipeline. Like, no, this is your life now.
Him. And he was the best. He is the best. We're still in touch, and I think that's how you had something special, because you really connected with the people.
I was thrown off when you're talking about just the camaraderie about around WFNX and on your show. A couple of years ago, I'd interviewed for a morning show producer gig in Worcester, which, very, very small market compared to Boston, but still, nonetheless, the opportunity was there. I went for it and was floored when I actually got an interview lined up. And I remember I was meeting the morning hosts. I interviewed with both of them, which I wasn't expecting. I was only expecting to meet with the PD, but then actually met with and interviewed with the morning hosts. And then as everyone was going their separate ways, I remember one of them said to the other one, "I'll call you later." And I'm like, wait, hold on. You guys talk to each other? Like outside of the studio, like outside of work, you talk to each other? And one of them goes, "Oh yeah, like we actually, like we vacation. Our families vacation together regularly." And I'm like, what?
I don't know how you couldn't. I don't know how you could live that life and not. And I get relationships get strained and you grow apart. And that can happen. Mm-hmm. And maybe it happens in but I think a lot of it is just the egos involved. And that's one thing I never got involved with. And certainly we never, or else we might be in different places. But I don't think I ever wanted to succeed at the expense of anybody else, which I think is what happens a lot in radio. And I know once Sandbox was over, I did 10 months with Jay Severin at Boston Talks.
No.
Now you want to talk about a big change going from FNX to producing Jay Severin. I believe he's passed away, so rest in peace.
Yes.
I mean, that guy got paid a shit ton of money. And I was in the other room just listening to his lies, losing my mind. Like, just going, because one thing I'm not is a liar. Like, I will tell you how I feel, but I'm not going to paint things the right way to frame it correctly. You can like it or not like it. Mm-hmm. But he was just outright lying. I'm losing my mind. And so then I came to Connecticut and did the morning show here on PLR as a producer for about a year, and then got into commercial production. So I've been off air for a long time. I do fill-in shifts or whatever, but I've never been a music jock. I've always wanted to talk to people. I grew up listening to Don and Mike.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So those are my radio gods is Don and Mike. Turns out, don't meet your heroes, because Don lost his last gig because he's a lunatic. Mike, I think, is still doing a podcast, which I listened to a few years back and then fell off.
Yep.
But yeah, it was weird going from having the time of my life to just making a paycheck. And then I met my now wife, and it was like, okay, we're gonna move to Connecticut. But did I want to chase the morning show thing, like you were saying? We interviewed in Worcester. Like, I wasn't gonna take any gigs in Boston by myself.
Right.
If I wanted to keep working, I had to move. And then at some point, I was reached the point where I was happy, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna move for a job.
And I feel like the Sandbox, when you guys got together, it was something that you don't really see in radio anymore, where you get a team together like that to do basically whatever the hell they want and build something from the ground up. It's just so commercialized now. And back then, I think it was also kind of coming off the heels of there was just sort of that like post Howard Stern era, and especially that was big in Boston, where you're kind of coming off the heels of his departure and just shock radio still being a thing, but it was I think You guys might have actually started right after Imus did his thing, and then it, kind of diluted, what people could do in terms of in terms of being creative. It, the Wild West era kind of stopped at that point. But
I think the difference with us too, though, was some of those guys like the Limbaughs of the world just wanted to be mean. If we made a joke and it hurt someone's feelings, it was not intentional. Like, we never went out to harm anyone. Whereas I think the Limbaughs of the world were constantly being evil to people. We just wanted to make people laugh. And sometimes when you're doing that, you're going to make a mistake. But I think for the most part, people knew what we were going for. We were just going for having a good time with people.
Did you ever have any instances on that show of like really setting off listeners, like saying something that just pissed everybody, like either like one person or one group or just everybody off?
So I'm probably the worst person to have on about that because I have the worst memory when it comes to these things. Fletcher and Charlie will tell you everything I did wrong, probably. But we all kind of had roles too, and my role was the agitator. One, because it came naturally for me. And two, like, those guys weren't going to do it. It just didn't fit them. Charlie was the straight guy. Fletcher was the cool, hip one. And, my job was to be the crank and the one that, the contrarian.
Right.
I can't remember. I know I made a joke down here in Connecticut when I was a producer. And, at the time I was married but had no kids. And, it was a joke that I made that I probably wouldn't make as a father. Would I have not done it then? No, because again, it's all situational, and I didn't mean anything by it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wasn't making fun of those involved, but at the same time, I can understand why some people might take it the wrong way. But again, sometimes something's not for you, or meant to be at you.
Yeah.
People take it so, and I am not part of the woke mob. Well, I'm woke in many ways, but not in the cancel culture kind of way, unless you're a Nazi. Like, if you're a Nazi, I'm all about canceling you. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
I want to make punching Nazis cool again.
As do I.
So aside from that, like, there are things that people say and I'm like, but then I'm like, well, that doesn't bother me. I'm not gonna worry about it. So I can't recall anything where I think the one time when we said Henry was quitting made people mad.
But was that a bit?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. The whole thing was a bit. I feel like that should have came out years ago. Sorry guys if I ruined the secret, but yeah. I think he was taking a vacation and we're like, well, what are we gonna do? Let's just say we fired him. All right.
Oh,
Good times.
The oldest trick in the book. Okay.
Yeah, it's not like, and you know why that sucked? You know why it sucked? It's because it wasn't original.
Right.
It's because we were just like, oh, it's been, it's something that had been done before. So that wasn't us.
You had the advantage though, and this was another thing about FNX that was very unique to it, and unlike any other radio station where Henry had been there since the radio had been invented.
Before that, actually,
yeah,
thousands of years before that.
Right, him and Julie Kramer, two people who their entire career, almost 30 years.
Incredible.
Yeah, over 29 years technically spent at FNX, which is again unheard of in radio. So if you were to say Henry's quitting, okay, people are going to be like, wait a minute. This guy's been here forever. You can't, and if you're already getting sort of the, the flack of being the imports from another market.
And let me stop you right. You've already put too much thought into it. You've put more thought than we did into it. And sometimes, that worked for us and sometimes it didn't.
Yeah.
The other thing is, you say, you're right. Being imports. I never wanted to be the one to prove something.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't really know how I feel about Boston. Obviously I had great times there. I met my wife there or whatever, but I don't have any feelings of like, oh, I got to go back. It was that great. I had fun and it's a cool city. And maybe I wasn't there long enough, but I never hid the fact that I was from somewhere else. I'm a lifelong Caps fan. Did I support Andy and the Bruins? Absolutely. Cause he was on the show with me and he became a friend, and you support your friends. But when it was Caps Bruins, I was all Caps, baby. Like, yeah. Get fucked.
See, that's what I appreciate. I love it when someone's from out of market and they're not afraid to say, I am not from here. And
People move.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck do you want me to do? I moved. I got a better job in a different city. I'm learning about everything, Sorry, I wasn't born on the Green Line as my mom was like commuting. They're from New England. My mom's from Chicopee.
Yeah.
And my dad's from New Bedford. So I had a connection.
Yeah.
But I didn't have the history, and perhaps I didn't honor it enough. Maybe I should have been like, can't, put Boston on a bigger pedestal, but I never did. I was just like a dude trying to work.
I think it's better to just admit that you're not from here. Obviously, learn about the city, learn about the ins and outs of it, get acquainted with the culture, but people are going to resonate with you if you're genuine and not if you're obviously faking it. Like, I feel like, because like going back to like, I mentioned Toucher and Rich earlier, and I still listen to them, or Toucher and Hardy now, but I still listen to them daily. And Fred is very open about how he's from Detroit and they lived in Atlanta.
Congratulations on your golf ball size nuts. Like what's wrong with you?
And he's just open about how he hates Boston sports teams, right? But I remember when they started in 2006, and I was just like perplexed at just how every other word out of their mouth was some just like either like mentioning a neighborhood in Boston or, just like one of the major streets in Boston. It just like, or just one of the suburbs. And it was like every other word. And it's like,
right.
Okay, you guys are obviously, you guys are obviously trying to, familiarize yourself with the city and trying to make it sound like you're connecting with the audience. Don't. Because it's
and
really
there's a
showing.
difference, I guess, between learning how to say the names right before you go on the air, which is what most broadcasting professionals do anyway. Like if you're a traffic reporter and you're doing out of town, you should probably know what they're called.
Mm-hmm.
And we tried to do that. We didn't want to, like, I knew it was Peabody. Like, it's like, nobody calls it Peabody, because again, I had family here. I'd visit my grandfather and, my grandmother in Chicopee, and then up in New Hampshire, we had family. So I had a working knowledge of it, but I was not going to bow down at the altar because I wasn't born here. Sorry, I was born in Northern Virginia. Like, that's where my roots are. That's what made me. So, and then Tom Brady ran up the score on Joe Gibbs and turned me totally against that city. Belichick didn't take Brady out. You got the nicest man in the NFL as a coach across the sideline. I was at that game, already pissed because they confiscated my tickets at the gate because we bought them from a season ticket holder. And they're like, yeah, you can't do that here. You can buy new tickets.
These tickets are printed on some sort of cracker.
It's unbelievable. I was so pissed. And then, my buddy from Richmond was up. We're both Washington fans. And he just kept Brady in. And I was just praying to the football gods that he would just get a Joe Theismann. Like, he'd just get his leg broken while he's back there running up the score. Against, again, the nicest man ever to coach in the NFL. Joe Gibbs, 3-time Super Bowl winner, 4-time gone, 3 different teams. Like, in his time, he was the Belichick of his time.
Yeah.
Sadly, his second run did not work out, but it didn't turn me against the Bruins, just the Patriots.
Right. I mean, coming up to whatever year Brady left, I think everybody was anti-Patriots. Oh my God. Yeah. And by the way, this is like the most sports I think we've ever discussed on this podcast. I know you were the sports guy at FNX. I'm the last person you ever want to talk to about sports.
I was only the sports guy, for the record. Go back and listen to any of those. Like, I called Tom Brady Tommy Boy, and I meant that in a bad way. Like, I was just like trying to disparage him with the worst nickname I could come up with. I like sports passingly, and they're like, well, guess you're doing sports. I go, I don't understand sports radio. I don't understand how my friend Big Jim does it. Like, he's got to talk about it for hours a day. It's nonsense. It's literally prognostication. Oh, if my favorite muscle-bound man does this, then he'll do this to these other muscle-bound men and will be the greatest ever. But, if I did that with Star Wars characters, which I do, I'm called a nerd. But if I'm talking about sports teams, oh, yeah, man. Yeah, bro. Chest bump. Like, crush beers. I go, I would do a 4-hour Star Wars show if they want me to daily. Because it is the same nonsense. It's just like, oh, what's the next movie going to be about? What did they mean when the lightsaber hit at this angle at this time in the movie? It's just It's bullshit, but it makes money. It prints it.
Oh man, I wish I had you here like 5 years ago. We did a couple of Star Wars themed episodes that were basically at one of them. I like, it was the first time I ever like sat off mic, and I produced my own podcast but didn't host it, and I let other people go nuts with it because they had the same like passion and mindset that you had. And
you want to know what makes me mad?
What's that?
People see this and they're like, "Oh, you like The Mandalorian?" And I look, "God damn it, I got it in 2012. It's Boba Fett. It was on his shoulder. You saw it in Empire Strikes Back in 1980. God damn it."
What are okay, first, Rogue One, best Star Wars film?
Outside of the original trilogy or overall?
Overall.
No. Empire still ranks, and I still think the original trilogy ranks higher, only because Rogue One wouldn't exist without those. You couldn't tell that story without what was done there. And Rogue One took what was laid there and took a more serious route, which I think is what that Disney needs to realize. Oh, they have more than one audience to serve now. And the Prime movies, maybe the three trilogies, for kids, great, but they can make more of those for the ones. There's three groups of kids, by the way. There's the original trilogy kids, there's the prequel kids, and now there's the sequel kids. Like, my son was watching something. He's on YouTube Shorts all the time, and he's like, "Oh yeah, somebody said the sequels are the worst ever because of Disney." I go, "Where did you even hear that? Like, you shouldn't be on Reddit yet." And he's like, "Oh yeah, somebody on YouTube." I go, "Did you like them?" And he said, "Yeah." I go, "Then fine. Don't worry what anybody else says." Because we got to take into account where we were in life at the time and what was happening at our age. And I'm an original trilogy guy. But I will stand by Empire. And Jedi, people get mad about the Ewoks. Relax. As a Star Wars fan, I don't understand why everything has to be just dissected. Why can't we just enjoy something because it made us have fun for a few hours?
Yeah. And I mean, it was unheard of in 77 when it came out. Something like that was pretty much unprecedented. And then the Star Wars Holiday Special came out and almost completely
people
drove
forgot about that
ground.
quickly, though. That didn't become a thing until we couldn't have it. They took it away. Lucas was like, "Oh, let's get that new movie out fast." 1980 comes and people forgot about it. But then I think in 83, when there was that lull after, Jedi, there were no movies till 99. We had books and video games and computer games. Believe me, I played all of them and read all of them. So people were like, "Oh yeah, you remember that thing that we can't have?" And so that, there was discussion about it, and then bootlegs. And I mean, I own 2 copies, I think, VHS and DVD.
Nice.
And it is as bad as everybody says.
Oh yeah.
The Boba Fett cartoon, good though. And it's that heavy metal kind of animation of the era. So I enjoyed that. But yeah, otherwise, I don't know what they were thinking. But look, listen, mistakes have been made. But at the end of the day, if you enjoy the movie, who cares? Do I like the sequels? No. If from a critical standpoint, no. But did I get to go watch those with my son and like pass on the lightsaber? Like, I did. I see how I replaced baton with lightsaber.
Yep.
I did. But yes, Rogue One is fantastic. But you're not wrong. It's one of the best.
It's like anytime I'm listing what my favorite Star Wars films are, and I got into it late, by the way. I'd seen episode 4 several times growing up, but didn't take in any of the other entries until just before the first sequel came out.
You sorry son of a bitch.
And I watched the Machete cut too, and I was told to watch it in that order. So
oh god, yeah, you were late to the game. It's not like you were kissing girls. What were you doing?
Watching Jurassic Park on a loop.
Oh, all right, yeah. So you're a little younger than me. That makes sense. I enjoyed that film. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, but we haven't heard anything about it other than it exists. But there is a new Jurassic World movie coming out next year, and it's being helmed by Gareth Edwards, who directed Rogue One. And
that's got to be promising because I didn't watch any of those Chris what's his face ones.
Oh, the last one. I've never walked out of a movie before. I came so close to walking out of Dominion.
That's $13 to $19 that you would have just blown.
Even more because I was dumb, and when I
IMAX.
Not even IMAX. Well, we got that X Plus theater, so you're paying for the fancy reclining seats.
Oh yeah.
But I actually bought one of those like extra large novelty Jurassic Park cups at the concession stand, and I'm like, all right, I've in the last like 5 minutes spent no less than $40 on this, and about 45 minutes in that movie, I'm like, I don't want to be out this money. Like I'll stick.
How do I get this back?
Yeah, but I was just so mad. Oh, I left the theater and I was in such a bad mood. But hopefully, Gareth Edwards, because I love Rogue One, I love Godzilla from 2014. He is, I think, like when it comes to cinematography, he is so good that I have high hopes for whatever it is he's doing with Jurassic Park. We don't know. We only know the cast, and Scarlett Johansson's playing the lead in it. So, I mean,
aren't there any other actresses? No slam on ScarJo, but it's you know what? It's like radio. It's a host can get blown out for any reason, and they're going to be picked up somewhere else.
Yeah,
radio has, and I meant to make this point earlier. Radio has not developed any new talent that I'm aware of.
No,
they haven't rethought how to do anything. They just keep rehashing everyone, or just not making any changes for fear of upsetting the apple cart. And then when these guys go for whether they retire, these shows, get sick of making however much they're making and retire, or getting up at the crack of dawn. What are we left with? Like, I don't know if anybody's thinking about the future, and nobody asked me. But I said, when we started the Sandbox, I said, it's got to be about personality. It was the era of Jersey Shore.
Yeah.
And I was like, do people tune into MTV for videos? No, but they're watching the hell out of Jersey Shore. And that's what radio has to do. They have to create shows that people want to hear.
Yeah.
And they just haven't done that.
That's a really good point, because if you think about it, if, a longtime personality leaves for whatever reason, they just plop in something syndicated.
Yeah, it's a shrinking, bench, and they're just plugging in the same people in more places. And I guess it's, cost effective, but what is it doing to build a new audience? Or I don't know. It's like, I don't know what anybody's thinking about the future for the business. I'm
glad you brought that up, because I was actually thinking about this this morning, and I can't remember if he's based out of DC, and if he is, I'm sorry, Fletcher, but there's this guy, Big Rig, and I've
heard the name, but
he's a syndicated DJ, and he's with iHeart, and I think he's typically like the night jock. But look up any iHeart owned rock station,
and he's on it.
You'll see Big Rig hosting nights, and it's like if they have a night jock, or like a local night jock, and they leave, they just segue Big Rig into it. And I'm like, I'm not knocking the guy. It's just he's in literally every market at this stage.
Yeah, I mean, good for him for hustling, but at the same time, it's the companies that are like, well, we don't have to pay that full timer in whatever small town he was in. Now we'll just pay this guy $5 more to put him in this city.
Right. So WAF, when I was working there, I started there it was late 2008. So like the housing bubble had just burst, the recession had started. Entercom, now Odyssey, they were gutted. I started the day they let go, like, I don't know, like 50% of their workforce. It was something ridiculous. Like I remember like waiting for my interview, and the poor receptionist was just taking calls about how like all these, I think like 2 or 3 WRKO hosts were let go, and she was just like getting all the angry phone calls about it. So they got rid of AAF, had gotten rid of their night guy, they got rid of their overnight guy, and just never replaced them. They just went automated. And even when voice tracking became prevalent, they never opted to have anyone voice track those shifts. And right before AAF flipped in 2020, they were talking about how they had this big plan to relaunch the station and refresh the playlist, and that they were going to have a DJ on every shift. And they were making it sound like it was going to be live too. So they'd have a live night jock, a live overnight jock. And I'm just thinking to myself, look, I love all you guys. I love this station. I'm happy I got to be part of it for 4 years, but I don't believe this for a second. Because there's no way Odyssey would let this happen. And like, I know there's other like factors at play, but just like the fact that like this was supposed to happen 2 weeks before the station ultimately flipped formats. Like, part of me is thinking that Odyssey's just like, yeah, we don't want to do this. So we're just going to sell the frequency. And I know, again, there's more factors at play involving their, crumbling stocks and value. But yeah, I was so skeptical just hearing, I'm like, you guys were really gonna have a live overnight person? And I'm friends with the guy who's gonna be doing it. And like, I was happy for him, but then and then sad for him when it all fell apart before he had a chance to even debut. And then Jim Ryan was supposed to do the night shift.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's a weird business. Like, there are days when I walk in and I go, is everything gonna be all right? I mean, that day I got fired. We couldn't get into the building. So it was probably like January 4th. We came back from Christmas break.
Yeah.
And we were on a high. We had the last show of the year of 2009 was our Christmas show or a holiday show, and like tons of people in, and we were firing on all cylinders, felt great. Came back energized. Oh man, our key cards aren't working. Well, it's FNX. Something happened. So we got let in. I think Henry let us in. And then we go upstairs and I go to log into my email and that's not working.
No.
So we're sending like texts to the corporate folks. Oh, our email's not working. So they didn't let Henry in on it. Or if they did, he kept quiet.
Yeah.
They didn't let Fletcher in on it because we were living together. Or as we like to say, he knew for months and just never said anything. But yeah, and then we got ready to go on the air. And Tierney walked in and was just like, Charlie, come here for a second. And we're just like, this is it. And that's how it happens in radio. Mm-hmm. Call me on my break. Why make me drive all that way?
Yeah, right?
Yeah, at 4 a.m. I'll drive with the truck and come get my stuff out of the office. Yeah. And we could have done this like civilized people. Instead, I got to sit there until they can get me. I literally sat there. They're like, you got to go. I got to get my contacts off this computer. Get your IT to turn my connection back on or send me the file. Because you guys gave me no chance to do anything. Yeah. But yeah, just treat us like human beings. And it broke my heart, actually. It broke my heart about radio. Or it broke me as a person. I don't know. That's just when I was like Stone Cold did it. Never trust nobody. It really did, because we lived it. We loved it there. We certainly weren't doing it for the money. And it was just, it's just to see it. I guess it had probably happened to Charlie before, and Fletcher had seen it.
Right.
And it had never happened to me. And I'm not a lazy guy. Like, I like to work hard. And I think that happening, going, oh, my hard work doesn't matter, made me lazier. Now I'm like, let's do enough. Get by. Oh, look at me. I did a little extra. And then, I don't know. But radio's notorious for it.
It goes back to what you asked me earlier about why would I want to have you on this show. And I always felt that now I wanted to work for FNX. I wanted to work at FNX. I wanted to work there. I was actively while at AAF, trying to using then budding social media to befriend everyone I could from there. That's how I got to know Charlie. That's how I got to know Fletcher. I got to enjoy some of the perks of WFNX despite not working there. Shout out to Fletcher for getting me into a Taking Back Sunday acoustic gig at the museum.
I remember that.
Yeah, the Museum of Fine Art. That was.
They're playing here in a couple weeks. I might go.
I might go too, and that will be maybe the 15th time I've seen them.
And they're so bad live.
They're terrible live. And yet I'm literally staring at a framed Taking Back Sunday poster right now that came from that event. I just want to go
yell. Yeah. I just want to yell along with them. That's all.
That's the thing. It's the crowds. You're going for the crowds and their reaction. It's don't watch the performance on YouTube. Watch it in real time with the crowds yelling along to everything.
It's Dashboard Confessional Saturday, Tuesday's Taking Back Sunday, Thursday's Alkaline Trio.
Oh my God.
So I'm out of town Saturday, so I got to at least go Tuesday. I'm definitely going to Alkaline Trio, duh.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, I interrupted. You were talking about how you wanted to be at FNX, and I treated it like it wasn't anything.
I mean, I'm sure to anyone else it probably wasn't anything. I mean, I don't know, there's people out there that probably felt the same way about WAF, and I was for a long time even working there, just very critical about everything about it. It's just it's a love-hate relationship for me. But with FNX, it was the thing that really sold me on it is, and this is me repeating another story here that you probably heard me tell Charlie and other times here on the show, but working promotions at WAF, working a street team, and we would do these big events like the New England Auto Show or whatever, the Boston Convention Expo Center. And you would have all of the radio stations set up there, and usually within proximity of one another. You'd have AAF, you'd have BCN/WZLX, and then you'd have
Radio
WFNX.
Row.
Yeah, it's pretty much Radio Row of all the minimum wage making part timers and college interns. And we, despite WAF's demeanor, being the edgy hard rock station full of badasses, what have you, metalheads, we didn't start shit. It was always the BCN people. It was the CBS radio people that were always starting shit. And this happened several times doing big shows like this, where we would turn our back for 5 seconds and the BCN people would come over and just destroy our shit. They just ransack everything. We'd turn around, we'd find sign up sheets and stickers and just crap everywhere. Like they would just fuck with us to no end. And then you'd have the FNX people see what happened, and they'd come over and they'd help us clean up, and they'd help us break everything down, and then we'd help them. And it turned out we ended up becoming really good friends with all the FNX street teamers, because they were just they were nothing but nice to us. And they're just they understood that, it wasn't supposed to be the whole radio war thing was just garbage.
Ours weren't as intense as yours, it seems. We just had friendly rivalries, but yeah, it does make you, in retrospect, feel like a corporate stooge. If you were involved in radio wars, you're oh, I hate those guys because these guys pay me and those guys pay them. We partook a little bit in that. Never to the point of, okay, we might have stolen a sign or something.
Sure.
Here or there. But never anything crazy. We had fun agitating them. For sure. All right, maybe one of our guys chased the other one up a host from the other station up the stairs.
Mm-hmm.
Just trying to be nice, I guess. I don't know. It's a story for another time. But certainly we weren't destructive. It was all in, good fun.
One of my favorite memories is,
and that was in Richmond, by the way. And in Boston and FNX, we didn't. We were just cool, whatever.
Sure. I don't know what the radio wars in Richmond were like. In Boston, it was, it was always BCN versus AAF versus FNX. And it's just sort of the irony now that all three of those no longer exist.
Well, we wasted all our energy on that aggro era.
Right.
Everybody had to play Limp Bizkit.
Yep. I remember there was a sign getting on the Charles Gate Road going into Brighton, and it was, I think they replaced it with an actual stoplight now, but there was just a stop sign for the longest time. And there was, if you just put sticker on top of sticker on top of sticker, it just becomes very thick, and it started off with an AAF sticker, and then someone plastered a BCN sticker over it. So then we plastered an AAF sticker over it, and this just kept happening until there was just this large bulge of stickers on the stop sign starting to cover up the word stop. And then I think
it's leaning over under the weight.
Someone from the DPW finally came and scraped it off, but all the residue was still there. And then we just started the process over again until BCN flipped. And then I think ZLX kind of kept it going for a little while, and then we ended up winning. But one of my favorite stories, Alice in Chains was playing at the Orpheum. This was 2010. And it was pouring rain out. And I remember the WAF van, our promotions coordinator, comes over, and she's just annihilated, breaking the rule of, don't drink at a radio station event.
Was that a rule? Because Oops.
Entercom it was. They were, and now obviously if you get caught then you're screwed, but they were just like, it was just hammered into everyone's heads. It was the antithesis of fun. But she comes over and she opens up the sliding door on the AAF van, and she sees all of the WAF street teamers, myself included, sitting in the van, not at the bar that we were supposed to be doing our event at, because we just didn't feel like it. Because it was pouring rain. We had to walk in the Southeast St. Patrick's Day parade earlier in the day, so no one's in the mood. So the entire street team is in there. My ex-wife is in there. She did not work for any radio station, so she shouldn't have been in the van. And then Nick Gemelli, wearing his WFNX garb, is sitting in there.
I remember Nick.
And our promotions coordinator just let out some sound that I think she was trying to say something, and it was just some incomprehensible language. It was like the old man in A Christmas Story yelling, "Not a finger!" Like, yep. And then she just slammed the door, and no one ever heard anything about it since. But I just, like, from her perspective, I can just imagine like what that would look like, just seeing this like this party happening in the van with the competition.
No, it's the island of misfit toys. Like this, This business is just. Every kind of freak, weirdo, nerd of every stripe, color, jocks too. Like we get everybody for whatever reason. Kind of, there's something in them, no matter what their generalization is, their stereotype. There's something in them that wants to be a part of it. Whether it's the music or the people, I don't know, but yeah, because we've had all of them. I think of something while you were talking about Boston. Are Jim and Marjorie still a thing?
Yes, they are at WGBH, and I think they're doing middays.
All right. They were just the one thing I remembered, like I guess I'll say positive thing from when I was doing the Severin show, is because like they were the people I saw. They were always like nice and upbeat and happy.
Yeah.
And then I go into this dungeon of lies.
I seem to recall meeting them once, and I do recall them being very nice. Like they came over and like were talking to me because they saw me wearing like an AF shirt, and they just were like, they introduced themselves, and I just remember like just craning my neck to look up at Jim, because I'm like, I think even straight to him, like, wow, you are tall.
Yeah, he's a very tall man.
Yeah.
and so it was that, and then they threw me a bone with whatever that alternative station they tried to launch was. Was it at Radio BDC? I can't even remember what it was called.
Was that the internet station?
BOS? I don't know. Yeah, the internet. I don't even know what they called it.
So Radio BDC was the
post FNX thing.
Yeah, that was the successor to FNX, and then it's now.
This is how much I pay attention. I don't remember the station I was on. Like, and I did like real stuff. I can remember I did like bits on the website for like A to Z. I would do like songs, like favorite A titled songs, or my favorite A bands, 3 songs from. Like I had a thing. I don't remember what that station was called.
Well, wait, are you thinking of the HD2 channel?
Maybe that's it.
Okay, so
it's me and Matt Shearer, I think.
Yeah, and look at Matt now; he's like a local celebrity.
Oh, he's so good, and he was always so talented. And he's such a nice guy. Like he's just the best. And
I love Matt.
You know what? That could have been me had I been born at the time he was.
Yeah.
Like I said, we did all this stuff. Nobody cared when we did it, and now, yeah, credit to him, man.
Some of my favorite quips have just come from things he's said to me, just like just one-liners that you're like left on like Facebook comments or like messages he sent me. Shearer is a genius.
Yeah, he's just a naturally funny, charismatic, and nice guy. He's like an all-around good kid.
He's the guy that like when you're, and this is a very local reference, but like, you're sitting around and all of a sudden the old theme song to the Water Country commercial just pops in your head, and you're just like, oh man, Water Country. Like I remember that song. Shearer is the guy who would then go out and find the commercial jingle writer who recorded that song for that commercial, which is exactly what he did last year.
Oh my God.
That's just his mindset. It's just how he operates. So that radio station is called Radio U Boston. All right. It was the HD2 subcarrier for 92.9. I know that because this podcast was on that station Friday nights for about 2 years.
What was 92.9 called?
WBOS. It was
okay, so maybe that's what I was doing.
Yeah,
I was doing something I don't even remember. This is the problem. Like I've got a memory problem. I can only remember 5 years back.
When you were there, HD1 was jockless, but HD2 was more indie. It was less.
So that
like,
must have been what I was doing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It was more indie. It was more like, instead of playing, Kids by MGMT, it's going to be a deep cut from, their first albums, just stuff like that.
That I could not name.
Sure. Yeah. Same here. I think like Indie Rockers is the only one I can think of. And that might even be their second album. But Shearer was on that station. I remember Lauren, who's the one that got us the gig there. And that was funny for us because me and Mike, my co-host, both working at WAF, working at Entercom. And then here we are on the competitions channel. We were allowed to be on there so long as we didn't get paid, and we did zero promotion, which
always works well for a project when you don't promote it.
Correct. And we would do it anyway. And they would always yell at it. They'd always pull us aside. And I remember the marketing director more than once pulling me into a darkened conference room and cornering me and being like, "What the fuck is your problem? Why
fire me?"
What do you?
That's really what are you gonna do? Fire me? Okay.
Yeah. I'm like, dude, if I'm promoting this on Facebook, and here's the problem with being friends with your coworkers on Facebook. I'm like, I literally have my settings set so you cannot see my posts. Like you'd have to physically look up my profile to see that I've been doing this, and I didn't care. But we had Friday nights at 7 or something like that. We would do just an hour version of the show where we tried to be FCC friendly, and it was a good time, but I don't know if it benefited us at all. But yeah, then for a brief time, you and I were sharing, I guess the airwaves together, because you were, I think, doing the morning shift, voice tracking that. Oh
God, yeah, I've put that all. Like I said, I'm not a music jock. I am. Sorry, I started leaning back. Have I been on the mic this whole time?
You sound great.
Am I good?
You sounded awesome, and in post, it's going to sound even better.
Yeah, I've just never been a music jock.
Yeah. I mean, same. It's not like we were talking up records. We would play a few songs during our show. And we were told too, I'm like, you guys can play whatever you want as long as it's indie rock. And I'm like, perfect. Then nothing but Oasis and the Stone Roses. Got it. So, that I would, sitting in the radio station van, it would either be listening to that station or FNX. And we never listen to our own radio station. We never listened to AF while doing AF stuff. It was always listening to Radio U Boston or FNX. And now it's Indy 617, which I listen to daily. And if you talk to Paul Driscoll, please tell him what he's been doing with it lately is great. And it's sort of the antithesis of what we've been talking about. There's no DJs anymore, and there's no promos to play for the station either. There was this, and I'm not knocking Paul, but there was this annoying as hell Boston Calling promo that would play every 20 minutes last year that I have it memorized because I heard it so many times, and doesn't seem to be the case.
Tickets.
Doesn't seem to be the case now with the station. The playlist, the rotation has been phenomenal, and Fletcher's doing the imaging for it, if you didn't know.
Yeah, I did not.
Yeah. He's the voice of the station.
He's got secrets. Sandbox secrets.
So that is what's left of WFNX now. It became Radio BDC, then Boston
Pass to the wind.
The Globe sold it off, and it became independent. And I think they tried to keep an on-air staff, and that's I'm sure none of them are getting paid for it, and or if they were, whatever. I don't know. It's just conjecture at this point. I'm not knocking it because I listen to that station every day. It gets me through the work. You a Psychedelic Furs fan, Ed?
I enjoy this song.
I'm seeing them with the Jesus and Mary chain in Brooklyn.
I'm into the JMC.
Oh, hell yeah. There we go. Yeah, they're touring. It's Psychedelic Furs and Jesus and Mary Chain, who put a new album out earlier this year.
I guess I should check that out.
Yeah, they're dinosaurs, but it sounds like a Jesus and Mary Chain album. But yeah, they're playing.
If you like fuzzy, rock, then that's your thing. I'm in.
I literally lost hearing seeing them in 2012 at the Paradise. Suffered hearing damage because I was too cool to bring earplugs, and not making that mistake again in a few months when I see them again. If you ever get to it, by the way, because I think you're probably closer to it than I am, the Brooklyn Paramount.
The chances of me making it to that, I will be honest, are very, very. I don't know if you know, but I've got a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old. I am taking the 10-year-old to his first concert when Alkaline Trio plays here in September.
How did you feel about, and I do want to ask you about J7 in a second, but how did you feel about the, what was it, 7 years that Matt Skiba was fronting Blink-182? How'd you feel about that?
As an Alkaline Trio fan, I think it was good for him, and I think it was good for the trio, because, you know, people who were interested in Blink that didn't know who he was found them, which hopefully made him more money and the rest of the band, best of trio, more money. And honestly, I like those 2 records. I believe it was California and 9. There are some songs that you can tell are definitely Matt, and there are some songs that I really, really like. And I'll be honest, like, I fell off of Blink probably around Dogs Eating Dogs, and what was the other one?
Neighborhoods.
Neighborhoods.
Yep.
Going back and listening, I listened to Neighborhoods the other day, though. I go, oh, I was wrong. This is actually kind of fun. But it wasn't Blink per se. But I actually blame Feldman, John Feldman, the producer, from Goldfinger.
Yep.
Who's produced all of pop punk. Like, he's done a ton of production. He overproduced everything. They did lots of oohs, ahs, woes. Like, they overdid everything, and I wish they had let them be a little more raw. I've always described Alkaline Trio as like Blink's older brothers. You know, like, Blink is fart jokes and what have you, and like Trio's like dark, and I like drugs and sex and, you know, drinking, ooh, and swearing. God, Matt Skiba. So I'm taking my 10-year-old to his first concert, and I had to have a talk with him the other night because I had showed him the set list, and Fuck You Aurora is like right in the middle of it. And he's looking at it, he goes, Dad. And I go, yes, I know what it says. And I had to explain to him that Matt Skiba can't write a song without putting a swear in it. And he thought Aurora was a person, and I had to explain, no, it's a city. And he's mad at the town for ruining his friend's life or killing them, or it depends how you read the lyrics, but whatever. And I was like, and he's a 40-year-old man at 10. But I was like, just don't say any of this at school or to your mother. Like, just, you can swear around me. I go, you stub your toe, and you go, oh, shit. Cool. Fine. But back to your question, I think they were good songs, and I think it was the right move. I think it helped. It was a bridge, because what would have happened if he wasn't there? You know, like, what would have happened to Blink? Eventually the guys came back together, but would they still have been writing, recording? Would, you know, Travis have gone on to other things? Like, you don't know. And they've always been friends. When they toured together way back in, who knows what year this quote came from, like, Mark Hoppus called them the best band in the world.
Yeah.
So he's always had a respect for him. And by the way, speaking of Mark Hoppus, I wanted you to know I look like the Wish Mark Hoppus in these glasses. I've got, you know, the little flip up, and you know how he wears his glasses. These are my readers. I don't need these to do anything but see up close. But yeah. I feel like I look like, you know, like just a knockoff Mark Hoppus in these.
Good visual for no one watching the actual visual.
Somebody should actually watch. You gotta watch the video now. Like, you gotta go see it.
Yeah. And to see that tattoo, by the way.
Yes, I do love, you know, I love both those bands. And you just saw Blink. I just saw Blink. They were great. I saw them the first time on the Dude Ranch tour. It was I looked this up. I had to find it because I was telling Kevin Begley about it. 1998, the tour around Uranus with Less Than Jake. They were touring post Dude Ranch. And it was before Travis joined the band. And I saw them in DC at, I believe it was called Capitol Ballroom at the time. I was drunk off my ass, obviously, as one is at that age.
Of course.
And I made my way crowd surfing to the stage. I got on stage, danced like a moron, kissed Mark on the cheek, and then Tom spanked me on my ass, and I jumped back into the crowd.
I'm never washing this butt again.
I know, like, it sounds stupid, and it was stupid. But, you know, that's what it was about. Like,
yeah,
I'm 20 something. I'm like, what is that? I'm early 20s. We'll just say that. And probably a little too old for pop punk, but those guys are my age anyway. So I don't feel bad for loving pop punk bands. And yeah, I was just having a good time being drunk and stupid with my best friend. That's exactly what was happening. Like, that song Rock Show resonates because that's what was happening. And that moment was awesome. And now they have millions. and I created podcasts and am poor.
Yeah, I got into Blink, like, of course, I have this amazing ability to get into a band like right after they break up, and that's what
you got to Star Wars late, you got to Blink late. Like, you didn't understand A New Hope when it was on Dude Ranch? Like, what's wrong with you?
And yet I lucked out, because then when the recession happened, all these bands that I loved, like the Jesus and Mary Chain, for example, realized there was money to be made in playing shows. So all those bands then reunited, and I had my chance.
Like, oh shit, we got to pay the bills, guys.
I had my chance to see them, Blink. And of course, the first show I go to was 2009. It was that reunion tour, and it was the day after DJ AM died.
Oh, God.
And they should not have played that show. They canceled several dates afterwards, but they felt some moral duty to at least play that night. It was in Hartford at the now Xfinity Center. And I remember it was...
That's where I just saw them, by the way.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I considered going to that show, but then opted for... I'd never been to a Fenway show before. So, which, by the way, this is the second attempt at recording this episode together, because the first time you were like, hey, I'm going to Blink. Last minute tickets.
I got tickets at the last second. I was like, sorry, I got to go to the show, man. And you understood, though.
And like, that is a perfect excuse. I also have last minute tickets. So please go. I'll be mad at you if you don't go. But yeah, it was raining. It was everything that you'd want, post Untitled era Blink-182 to have. And I remember they did a moment of silence for AM before I think they played Down. They were all in tears playing Down. Travis did this incredibly angry drum solo at the end of the song, and then like threw his sticks, got up and left the stage for 10 minutes. And I'm like, this is like,
awkward.
It's awkward, but it's also really cool at the same time. Like, because no other show is going to be like this on the tour.
Right. It's certainly visceral. Like, it's real.
Yeah, every time I've seen them, there's been, until thankfully this current, let's say, era of the band, and I didn't see them at all with Skiba. I
got to see them once because I love Matt Skiba.
They always played at the Boston's, quote unquote Boston's, Mansfield, but the Xfinity Center up here, and I hate that place so much. So there's been like plenty of shows that have happened there where I'm like, I would go to it if it wasn't at this venue.
My favorite show happened there. It was Pearl Jam, back-to-back dates.
Oh, sick.
It was I think 2009. It was so amazing.
Oh, man.
So I have nothing but happy memories of that place.
I'd say one of the best shows I saw there that I can remember that I was not tanked for. Well, I saw Alice in Chains' reunion show there in 2006. I saw Weezer with Panic at the Disco, and there was a lightning storm that was coming. It basically was there the whole time. So we're all just outside in the open while lightning is striking around us, while Rivers is doing a lazy medley of all of their hits.
You got to see Surf Wax America, though.
Yeah. And then
I'm going to date myself because I stood in line, and for your younger listeners, they're not going to know what this place is. I stood in line at Tower Records at midnight for them to open to get Dude Ranch at release. Because remember, Tower used to open at midnight on like Thursday nights because releases came out Friday, or maybe it was Wednesday night because they came out Thursdays, whatever it was. But you could get the records at midnight. And I bought Dude Ranch the minute it was available because I loved Cheshire Cat so much. Or Cheshire Cat, however you want to say it. You can say it either way. And yeah, I'd been a fan ever since. So seeing them in Hartford was I mean, that's the thing. I'm that demo now. I'm the nostalgia demo.
Yep. Yeah, I saw him at Fenway. It was I've been very fortunate in being at Fenway twice in the span of a month and having the exact same seats, and it's like up in one of the pavilions. So it was like, I'll have to send you picture / video just so you can see the vantage point of it, because it was just like you have a perfect view of the stage, even though you're probably about a good like mile back at that point.
I was gonna say, at least a half mile away.
Yeah, but you get a great like view of the Boston
How was the
skyline.
sound?
The sound was okay, like it was audible, right? But it was still a good time. And
did you get Pierce the Veil as your opener?
Yes, I have this amazing ability to show up just before the headliner goes on.
Oh, nice. Way to play it.
So I didn't see them, and they had Ecstasy as well, who I'm familiar with, but was not going to show up super early just to watch them. Like,
oh yeah, we only got one. Oh, you got two. That's big city living.
No, I thought they were playing, when you saw them, I thought they were playing at the Hartford.
At XL?
The healthcare pavilion or the whatever it is in Bridgeport.
Oh, that's in Bridgeport.
Yeah.
No, they were in Hartford. Okay. I'm in between the two, so I can go to either one. That
Bridgeport venue is so nice.
Yeah. We will. I will be there on Sunday for the Connecticut Pizza and Brew Fest.
Ooh.
Get your tickets now at pizzaandbrewfest.com. I think Pizza and Brew. I don't know. Google it. You'll find the website.
You sound like you're making production pieces for it.
Gotta move those tickets.
See, that's actually kind of enticing because one thing I loved about that venue in Bridgeport is that it's all like the concessions are all local places, all, local breweries, local food places.
Oh, yeah. And there's going to be more of that. There's going to be pizza, lots of pizza trucks.
All right. You sold me. What day is it?
It's Sunday from, if you get VIP tickets, you get in at noon and you get a free air conditioned area plus water and slices. And then GA starts at, maybe that's at 11 and it's at noon. Okay. I don't know, man. Go to the website. It's all there.
Okay. I saw last year, I saw Newfound Glory and All American Rejects. And this was maybe a month after doing helping Charlie do sound for Newfound Glory, playing at a very small record shop in Beverly, Massachusetts.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Which
I was a big fan of those guys too. Like I'm a pop punk guy. Like I just, it's that self-titled record.
Yep.
Everybody likes, what is it, Catalyst or Sticks and Stones better, and I'm like, no, I am the self-titled record. Like that is my Newfound Glory.
It'd been a while since I got to like be in the presence of famous people that I actually like admire and have a lot of respect for, and going up to Jordan Pundik and asking him about his contributions to Boxcar Racer. I'm like, I have a mission today, and it is to ask about his background vocals on the song Cat Like Thief. And that mission.
Oh, I had no idea he was there.
That mission was successful because his like the full title has like featuring Jordan Pundik on it, but you gotta listen closely. And he just told me, he's like, yeah, I'm at the end. I'm just like harmonizing with Tom, and like we sound identical, but I was just hanging out with him and he was recording that album, and he asked if I wanted to join him and contribute some vocals, and I did. And I'm like,
right. So who's the high nasal there and who's the low nasal? Like,
right. Yeah. It's I think it's actually like he is the high nasal. Like, and I went back and listened to it. I'm like, that's it. There he is. That's him.
Oh, that's cool. That's one thing I loved about punk. And that's how I found a lot of punk bands, was reading the liner notes, and the guys, people would just, appear on other people's records.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a ton of fun. And it was just people, they tour together and they'd be like, hey, you want to be on this record? Cool. And then they give them a shout out in the liner notes.
Well, that's
how I found bands.
That's like the is it the DIY ethic that they call it? Yeah. It's just, everybody's connected, and it's like almost like one big like musical orgy.
It's quite an image that I have in my head now of all these Fat Mike and Greg from Bad Religion oiled up and rolling around with Skiba and Mark and Tom, and just keeps going from there.
And for Fat Mike, that's like a Tuesday night.
Right, that is true.
He's got like a mobile dungeon that he brings with him. Anyone want to wear the leather? So I gotta ask you about this. So Blank played at Lollapalooza. They headlined Lollapalooza in Chicago, and this review of the performance has gone viral, and it's from the Daily Illini. I'm going to say dailyillini.com. It's a college-run online newspaper, and the writer Ella Narag, you should know I'm awful at pronouncing names.
Yeah, you don't want me doing that. I've slaughtered many a name.
She
let me put on my readers here.
She was, I'm going to say, forced at gunpoint by the university to watch Blink-182 and review their performance, because the headline is Blink-182's performance distastefully closes Lollapalooza. And
so you sent this to me, and I read it immediately. Continue your setup. I apologize.
It's okay.
I love.
Yeah, it's just written by someone who is unfamiliar with Blink-182, who's probably never gone out of their way to listen to Blink-182 outside of maybe hearing one of their radio staples in passing. Maybe someone would have to tell them, oh, that, you know, if they hear I Miss You and they say, oh, that's who this band is. And Ella goes, oh, okay, I've heard of them. But
I'll go to that show.
Seems like a bunch of nice young whippersnappers.
Right. Play her family reunion before she gets there, and she'll know what she's in for. You know, this is like my mom hearing, I don't know, same thing, like hearing Miss You and being like, oh, that's such a nice song. Play me more of that. And I go, I'm not gonna, Mom. Like, I'm just gonna stop there. You enjoy that one. I get it. It's a different time. Has Blink-182 grown up? No, they haven't. But the thing I think we had in common with them at the Sandbox was we weren't hurting anybody. We weren't intentionally hurting it. We were just having a good time, and that's all they're doing. And they're talking about each other and their moms.
I remember listening to you guys interview them.
It's the best interview we did. I think that hands down, people stole that and posted it on YouTube. Like the YouTube video that somebody put, I haven't Googled it lately, but it had a ton of views. Somebody just posted it with like a picture of Blink. And it's one because I'm a super fan.
Mm-hmm.
The other two were, well, Fletcher's a fan and Charlie knew enough if he wasn't a fan. And it was just good times because Mark and Tom are just good at time. Like that's what the band is. Like that's what she missed in her review was they're just goofing off, having a good time. So what if they're making dick jokes? There's nothing wrong with dick jokes or fuck your mom jokes. Like,
yeah,
they're funny.
By the way, I have a lot of respect if it wasn't you, whoever began that interview with boo, bring back plus 44.
I think that was probably Fletcher. But that's the thing. We didn't say that as like, it's that thing about humor, you know? We almost said that as insiders. We said that as fans. They knew we didn't mean like, oh, we really like plus 44 better than you.
Yeah.
It meant we have this knowledge of these other things you have done. And, you know, we can make this reference and you can appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Even like when we were like doing the, where are you? And he's like, do I really sound like that? Like that is the best thing ever. And they played along with it. It's my favorite interview ever. I would do that interview every time.
Wait, you mean this?
Where are you?
It's so good. And they had and I got deep into it. I was like, I want to hear you remake Wasting Time. It's your best song. And they're like, holy shit, dude, relax, will you? You know, and it's they say never meet your heroes. And I wouldn't necessarily call them heroes, but at least they're real. You know, we had a real conversation with them about nonsense because that's what this is. Like entertainment is nonsense. You either like it or you don't. And some people take it so seriously. And this girl clearly takes it seriously. She can't have any brothers, or if she does, she only has one. And she doesn't hear him talk to his buddies about, like, hey, can you hit that for me? Like meaning the light switch. And he's like, oh no, I hit your mom.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like while he's air humping, like these are things that happen in real life. And there's no malice. There's no meanness. Of course it's crude, but it's still fun.
I was also curious if she is heavily religious and her all of her social media, like everything that she has been locked down. I imagine
she made a mistake hitting publish for sure.
Yeah, but her Instagram profile says she is a quote follower of Jesus. So,
again, Lollapalooza is not for you. It's like they forget that maybe Lollapalooza is so far removed from where like people were lighting their nipples on fire with the Jim Rose circus back in the day. It's Lollapalooza. If you want, you can go see your youth pastor with his guitar at some prairie somewhere or at some farm, but
Blink's
it's not. You're not the target audience.
Blink is definitely not being played on K-Love.
Right. I don't go to church because I'm not the target audience.
She began the review with, quote, cringeworthy and repulsive. Blink-182's headlining performance was unworthy of closing out this year's Lollapalooza. The set, though filled with lively songs and an engaged audience, was filled with all too memorable, odious remarks from the two lead singers, Mark Hoppus and Tom DeLonge.
First of all, what does she mean worthy of Lollapalooza? Again, she wasn't even born when Lollapalooza started. And it had a lull. Like, how many years has it been going since they brought it back? Like, isn't it only in Chicago, or is it multiple cities?
I can't remember if they still do. I think they still do Brazil.
Right. So it's like, again, what is the history there of, not worthy of? Isn't Riot Fest the better festival in Chicago anyway, where all the punk bands play?
It is.
I'd rather go to that.
I've been there. It's phenomenal.
Oh, I hate you so much. These kids and this wife and this job and this house. Oh, I could be out just doing drugs and going to punk shows.
And they moved it to a stadium for this year, and I don't know how I feel about that because they finally got kicked out of the park that they've been performing in the last few years. But I fucking loved it there. I went to all 3 days in 2022, and it was dude, I got to see the Misfits with Danzig. Like,
that's
come on.
Check. This girl, she said she's a sophomore, which that makes her 19, 20.
Mm-hmm.
18, 19. Yeah, 20, 21 at best. And judging by her social, media, it's just not for her. And so if she's going to be a journalist, I guess this is editorial. So, but like, you got to take yourself out of it and you got to do your research. And if she knew what they were, they hit the nail on the head. They were them. Like, it's a nostalgia act at this point. They formed in like the mid 90s.
Yeah.
But it's 30 years, guys. Like, they're not going to change.
And it's what they're known for. I mean, she even says, why are two older men aged 52 and 48 respectively, who have wives and children, making jokes about sleeping with the other's mother?
Because it makes me laugh. That's why. It's the same reason when I get together with my buddies from back home, or with talking to you, like, or with Fletcher and Charlie, like, I'll make those jokes because it's funny. And you're either in on it or you're not. And she's not, and it's not for her. And that's okay.
Yeah.
But they certainly aren't going to change because she wrote this. And she's rightfully getting flamed, right? Nobody's on team Blink-182 should be more serious.
Yeah, the Blink-182 subreddit, they've been begging people not to post her public, college email address. Yeah, and begging them not to inundate her with feedback and comments, let's say. But I'm sure.
Right, you do it on her on the newspaper website. That's where it belongs.
Yep.
If that's where it's posted, that's where it goes. There used to be etiquette, but now we hunt down everybody's handle on whatever outlet they have and bombard them with.
Yeah.
If it's posted here, that's where you comment. If it's posted multiple places, then you got the freedom to post or comment on those.
Yep.
But you shouldn't be hitting everything. Don't carpet bomb.
That's why I don't do LinkedIn anymore, because I just don't want that stuff out there,
What a cesspool. It's just like this grind mindset. That's all they post about is like, I woke up at 2 this morning. I did my exercises, drank my coffee, worked for 3 hours, said hi to the wife for 1 minute, went back to work for 3 more hours. It's like, why? I have a LinkedIn. I couldn't tell you what it looks like. I don't even know if it's updated. Because again, if I got to look for a job, all right, then I'll update it and I'll worry about it then. But I'm not hustling for another job. I like where I am.
Yeah.
Things are good.
I worked at a video game studio for 10 years, and
it wasn't Shillings, was it?
No, we hired a lot of people from Shillings. Remember what I was saying when I got hired at Entercom? It happened to have been like the day after they laid off a ton of people. I started at WB Games the day that Shillings studio was shut down, like abruptly shut down. And over the course,
because he took all the money.
oh, he is such a piece of garbage. Oh,
I've said that before. Oh, look, I'm bleeding. I threw my sock. Oh, baseball's the softest sport in the world. Get out of here with your fake fights.
I've been so like, I had been very anti TikTok, and I only use TikTok to post stuff for this show. And the first video that ever got like any significant amount of traction, like I'm saying like thousands of views, was just this commentary I did about how much I hate Kurt Schilling. And it was when he blew the lid on Tim Wakefield's cancer diagnosis.
Oh, another reason he's a piece of shit.
Yeah. And that just got a lot of attention from people. And most of them were like agreeing with me. A few people, you know, he has his small but loyal following of maniacs. But for the most part, people are like, yeah, this guy sucks. Like he has completely invalidated anything that made him, you know, great. You know, if anyone's looking up to him as a hero in sports, they shouldn't be now because of, the Wakefield thing, throwing the state of Rhode Island into bankruptcy. I mean, the list goes on. But
what do you do at WB, or what have you done? Anything like? Tell me. I want to know. Like,
play if you play any of the like major releases in the last 10 years. Like the Shadow of War, Shadow of Mordor, those Middle Earth games, Batman Arkham Knight, I
played that one. I never finished it.
Any of the Lego games.
I play all the Lego games.
Look in the credits, and you'll see my name in there.
Get out of here.
And it's
what do you do though? What do you? You're dodging the question. What do you do?
We did live support, customer support, tech support. So my at the end of my tenure there, before I left, I was managing the outsourced customer support teams. And I also did project management for a while. So I helped actually launch a few games.
That's awesome.
Mostly on the mobile side. We had this. This is why I hate mobile games so much. We had a game that was based on, and whenever I say like I'm making it sound like I'm still there, and I'm not anymore, thank God. But it was based off the show Westworld. And I was involved with that from its genesis, its infancy, getting to see, they call them the alpha builds, when the game is in development, but it's not yet ready to be released. Building out support guides, both for our, internal teams and then for the players, like, the FAQs as they're called, and was so proud of the work we did getting to launch that game. And it got shut down in less than a year because nobody was playing it. It came out between Westworld seasons. So that really killed any momentum they had. But B, turns out that the developer who made it ripped off the game Fallout Shelter, which is one of the most popular mobile games out there. And they used,
I played that.
Well, they used the same developer. We contracted the same people who made that game, and they just skinned it basically. They're like, we'll just redo everything. 100%. And Bethesda then sued Warner Brothers, like, dude, you took too much of our game. So if you had played Fallout Shelter, then you can imagine what Westworld was. It was the exact same thing. It was a carbon copy. That's funny. And that killed a lot of the drive, the love that I had for the industry at that point. Just these live service games come and go so frequently. They get shut down more often than not. And you always read about just, the people who poured years of their life into developing it and contributing to it just to have it shut down after not being live for very long. And I felt that, like, I didn't contribute to the actual, development or the design, but the technical end of it, but there was a big element in the, the player facing side of it. And there were people who played it, that enjoyed it, that spent money on it. And it just, it sucks all around. And that was sort of the, for me, that's like, I'm like, I'm suddenly not having fun with this anymore. But, somebody just sent me a video earlier today of, I would assume it's a video game developer talking about a display they had. Mm-hmm. And one was like a monitor and a keyboard and a monitor and a controller. Mm-hmm. And they didn't get a lot of action on the keyboard. Like,
people were just kind of looking at it, the kids at this booth.
Yep.
So they put both of them as controllers, so to enter your info.
Yeah.
Right. Rather than typing, they're just like, oh, use the thing to move it around the keyboard.
Yep.
And then there were still some kids who were like pushing the controller out of the way and pressing the screen. That was not touch sensitive, but they're like, oh, what do I do? What do I do? Because kids are so used to mobile gaming.
Yeah.
Like mobile gaming's such a big thing that they don't know what a controller is.
Yeah.
So they see a controller and go, I don't know, just touch the screen, make it do what I want.
Yeah. And that's another complaint I have is it's predatory business practices. It's basically gambling. It's so easy to buy, they call it they call it hard currency, but it's gold. It's something that's like, for $2 buy, 100 pieces of gold or whatever. And there are people out there that will spend tens upon upward of hundreds of thousands of dollars. That was one of the things we had to, this is me going behind the curtain, but actually coming up with a system of, support tiers. And it was basically the level of service is dependent on how much money you spend on the game.
Oh God, it is a predatory business. And
I think that's as much as I can say without getting
right legally.
Yeah.
My son plays some of those, and I have to explain to him. I go, you could pay, but they offer that just to, make it easier for you, and they just want your money.
Mm-hmm.
So they got you on the free game. Like, don't give them any money. You're sitting through ads already. They're getting paid. You don't have to give them any more.
Yep.
And I'm the same way. It's like, if I'm paying for a game, it's one thing. I don't want to see ads. I don't want to see anything. I've given you my $60. I shouldn't have to pay more to get the complete game. But that's what's happening a lot now. Like, oh, that cool level we showed you at the conference. You're not going to get to play it unless you spend another $30.
So one of the studios as part of WB is called Rocksteady, and they made the Batman.
Yeah, they
games.
did the Arkham games, right?
Correct. And they just released Suicide Squad earlier this year.
Oh, that's shit in the bed, isn't it?
I was excited for it when it was in development because I knew about it before everybody else and I couldn't talk about it. And I was excited at the idea of it, but I also knew they had gone through a very troublesome development and what came out was not what was initially planned.
Well, it's also the movies. Like, they keep trying to force it and just accept it's not happening.
Yeah. Yeah. People also the timing was bad because then the guy who voiced Batman, Kevin Conroy, he died and this was one of his last projects and everybody.
It's a legend.
Yeah. Yeah. And knowing that this is one of the last things he did as Batman and just sort of knowing going into it, even before the game came out, it just was anticipated that it was not going to be good and it wasn't good. And there was a lot of backlash over that being, obviously outside of anybody's control, but at the same time, it's this dude has such a storied career and this is the last thing he's done. And it's garbage. Yeah, they're at one point, I swear to God, this is true. They posted because there's some platforms out there where you can actually get a number, a stats of how many people are concurrently playing one of these live games, and they posted the number, and I'm like, holy shit, this podcast has more listeners than that game has players right now. That is sad.
Wow. Right.
Saying something.
I don't know what your budget is, but I'm going to assume the games was a lot bigger.
Oh yeah. And it had been delayed a bunch of times too because first a lot of development problems, and then when they finally revealed it to the world in 2020, the backlash was so significant that they delayed it indefinitely to try to repair their pre-release feedback, which I don't know.
Incredible, because those Arkham games are all so well received.
Mm-hmm.
Those are great games.
Well, we were talking about this reviewer, this journalist who forced to go to a Blink-182 show seemingly against her will. I think a lot of those people at Rocksteady were forced into developing a live service game, something that they didn't want to do, but they had no choice. And right. I know that the head of the studio left before the game came out, which is very telling. never a good sign when that happens.
Man.
That also happened.
They landed somewhere cushy.
When I left, the day, I think it was the day I put my 2 weeks notice in, the head of our studio called everyone together for an impromptu meeting to announce that he had also put his 2 weeks notice in. And I'm like, well, the writing's on the wall. This is
everybody all at once.
Peace out, everybody. Yeah, there was a bit of an exodus when I left. I was not the only one who was a bit disenfranchised with what that company has been doing. Even just today, I read that they're in the process of selling off some of their stake in the video game in their video game division, like Warner Brothers as a whole. So, yeah, I think I jumped ship at the right time. But 10 years though. I left radio to go do that, and it was just I wasn't. It would have been cool, growing up to say like, oh, I want to work, making video games. Didn't actually expect to have any hand in it, but
yeah, that's cool. I drew some Mega Man levels as a kid. Nothing. Capcom didn't pick up any of them.
I'm a Sonic the Hedgehog guy myself. I grew up with Sega. Everyone had Nintendo. I had Sega.
You're substantially younger than I am.
Yeah. Just a bit, just a scooch. But for the first 5 years I was there, we did like MMO RPGs, kind of like World of Warcraft. Ours were based off Lord of the Rings, and following up on your D&D crack earlier, one of them was a D&D game, and both games are still running to this day, which is astonishing. But
that's crazy. But you didn't make that Schmeagle game, did you, or whatever it was called?
Yeah, the Gollum one.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so bad. There's actually a term now for games that get like released that are just eviscerated upon launch, that are so bad, and it's called Gollum-like. And it all came from that Gollum game.
Took the heat off of E.T. from the Atari 2600 way back in the day. That was the one that they buried hundreds of copies in the desert, apparently.
And they found them within the last, I think it was
there's a documentary, and it turns out like the game was just rushed. And if you play it, the other problem was nobody read the directions. We just started playing it. But if you read the directions, you can actually finish the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the guy who created it, he created Yar's Revenge, which was a very...
Yeah, he's awesome at what he does. And they were just like, no, get this out now and make it make sense. He's like, one or the other, guys. I can't do both.
Sure, it was 1982. Like, what are you going to do? But people just didn't understand, Spielberg especially didn't understand that, 6 weeks is not ample time to release one of these things.
Right. It was still a lot of work.
And that's exactly what happened. And he released something that was playable. I'll give him that. But yeah, they found it. They unearthed everything that was crushed. And it wasn't just E.T. It was like a massive backlog of cartridges from the what's called the video game crash of 1983. It was just... I
was there for it. I remember it.
It was just excessive stock, and they just threw it in a landfill and crushed it all. But E.T. just happened to... amass most of the games that was in there.
Yeah,
but,
3-1 probably.
Yeah, but it proved it was an urban legend for a long time. Only select people were witness to the burial, and now the whole world has seen it be removed. So now it's no longer an Aesop fable. But yeah, for the 5 years I was working on those MMOs. In retrospect, it was a cool gig because you'd be the guy that someone's doing a quest, and the monster that they need to kill either you spawn or it spawns in a wall. And my job was to go in and find the thing and run some commands to pull it out, or just you run a command that kills it. So whoever's playing can keep going moving with whatever they're doing. Yeah. And
oh wow, I don't think I've ever played a game, but again. As referencing the 2600, I'm a little older, and I'm very much single player, not online. That's just, I go online and I get my ass kicked by a 10-year-old kid in Canada when I'm playing NHL or something. I don't want that. So I've never experienced somewhere where I have to be online, be like, hey, I'm stuck in the wall and can you get me out? It's just not, it's alien to me.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to hear about it.
Yeah, not many games have systems like that, but we had it, and it was a 24/7 operation. So when I got hired, I was doing overnights, which will ruin anybody. The humans are not meant to operate on that schedule. But sometimes it was really fun because either you could kind of MacGyver a solution together to try to help somebody. And sort of the thrill of having it work. And then obviously you're interfacing with a real person who's then excited that you just help them so they can keep, playing. I mean, it sucks if it's one thing if it's your job, and
did you ever kill someone just because they were assholes? Like, was somebody ever just yelling at you on the phone? You're like, oh, the only way out of this is I have to kill you and send you back.
Once. And that was, it was not, it wasn't a case of them like all this, going Karen mode on me, in our during our call. It was someone, because then you'd have people who are just belligerent jerks. Part of the job was being like the cop, upholding the terms of service, as it were.
Right.
And you'd have, the trolls go in there that were just, they would create accounts and characters just to piss everybody off and fuck with everybody.
The griefers.
Yep, exactly. So there was one time that one of the games, I think it was the Lord of the Rings game, we called it the Nerf Bat. And it was a command that you could run that would literally send them flying like pretty much across the world. And like, they would die on impact. But the problem is it would tell you on the player's end, it would say who did it. And our characters, our admin characters had like special characters in them to note that we were admins. So like the player would see, admin has killed
throwing you across the planet.
Yeah. So then you would get a nice email being like, "What the hell? This admin came in and killed my character." So it would always come back to bite you. If you got your retribution, it would always come back to bite you in the ass. But
it's so stupid, though. It's so stupid. Is what makes me laugh. Like it's just a game.
We'd have fun. Sometimes we'd have fun with them. Sometimes we would all the admins would like get together in like the, the newbie area. And we would like turn we literally have to, our characters would be by default wearing like invisibility cloaks so you couldn't see us, but like we could turn them off. So we would turn off the cloaks, go visible, and then we would spawn like, level 1 enemies that can't kill anybody. And we would just like spawn a whole like slew of them and be like, have fun, go nuts. And
that's cool.
The players loved it. They just, it was like it's like a celebrity comes out to, just shoot the shit with people, it's like,
or it's like hitting the lottery. Oh shit, I can get all this XP real quick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
That's so much fun.
Yeah. So we had it had its moments. It was, in hindsight, it was a good time, but the culture is just, you can read about it in, pretty much any video game studio. The culture is very volatile. It's very toxic. It just and
I don't think people understand how much they make a lot of these guys work.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just, when that project's over, it's like there's not even a thank you. It's like, see you, bye.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, around the time that Red Dead Redemption 2 came out, and that sort of really opened up people's eyes to crunch culture, as it's called, like the need to spend, working 12-hour days, 80-hour weeks just to finish the game and get it out the door. And it was one of those things where it was known, but nothing was really being done about it. And it wasn't until that game came out where all of a sudden the revolts started happening, and it started impacting like our studio and our company, even though we weren't like actively releasing anything that required that. But it just sort of cast a negative light on everything. It sort of, put a dark cloud above everybody that just never went away. And then we had our own version of the video game industry had its own version of the Me Too movement. The guy who was running Activision, Bobby Kotick, was his incredibly poor management style led to a bunch of developers basically getting name checked and called out for their, predatory behavior and everything. And that was sort of, for me, that was the final straw, because A, I didn't want to be associated with this, but B, it had a trickle down effect across the industry. And suddenly everybody was on edge. People were turning on others just, out of fear. And it's a very,
you're a known ass grabber. So I don't know if anybody knows that about you, but it's going to make your job very difficult.
Marge, I'd appreciate it if you didn't tell anyone about my busy hands. Yeah, it just, it's a very male dominated industry too, so things just got very sour very quickly. And that's when for me, the job hunt began, where I'm like, I got to get out of here. I can't, I don't want to leave, but I can't be here anymore.
Did you get any good swag at least? Like any cool collectibles?
Yeah, I mean, I've got like jackets and I got a couple of really nice jackets out of it. I mean, I never had, for the Lego games that came out, I never had to pay for them. So that was nice.
Right.
I'm trying to think. We didn't get like, any free consoles or anything.
Well,
I think the best thing was we would get like the free movies. Like we would get the screenings of the WB films before the day before they came out. So like you'd have that bragging right. And the best one that we saw wasn't even WB. It was the screening that we were supposed to go to fell through, but they still wanted, they had already paid for movie tickets for a whole studio. And they had said, all right, we were supposed to see whatever. It's not happening. So we're going to see Guardians of the Galaxy instead.
Oh, that's a good time.
Which is hilarious because it's technically the competition. And I'm like, this was like the best movie that we've seen. And it's not even a WB film.
You're right.
Because then we saw like, Suicide Squad, Batman versus Superman.
Don't get me started.
Yeah. And
that was a nice perk of the Sandbox was I worked it to get us some movie screenings. Like we got to talk about movies. Might as well get the screenings. And I had just started dating my wife, and I took her to what is that? Now I can't. District 9.
Oh, I love that movie.
I do too. But we walked out of it, and she's like, "What the hell was that?" I go, "It was a love story." Because like at the end, he gives her a flower or some shit.
Yeah.
Because he's in the robot body, right? But he still loves her. Is that what it was?
Yeah, he's fully turned into an alien.
An alien. Yeah. But Chappie was the robot.
Yeah, and they show him making a flower, and it's assumed
a
that's
metal
him.
Flower or something. Mm-hmm. And I was like, but look, it's a love story. She did not buy it.
I quote that movie regularly when he's like inside the fast food restaurant. He's like, I'm not fucking any prunes. That is such a good movie. And they were supposed to be a District 10 that never got made. Neil Blomkamp, unfortunately, is known for putting some fantastic movies into pre-production, and then they just don't pan out. He was supposed to direct it was a direct sequel to Aliens. That would have retconned Alien 3, anything after Alien 3. It would have been based off, I think it was going to be based off one of the original scripts by, like, I know they finally released it a couple of years ago. It's by William Gibson, the guy who did the Godfather of Cyberpunk.
Right.
And I think it was going to be based on one of those, and it was going to be like Sigourney Weaver, like Ripley was going to take a back seat. Michael Bihn's character, Hicks, was going to be the main character. And he was going to get them back. Obviously at that point they were in their 60s, but he was going to have them in the film. And then it just, everybody had signed on, and then the movie never happened. And I'm still bitter about that to this day. Yeah. Even though we're getting a new Alien movie in a couple of weeks, I still want that like correction of Alien 3, where we get.
It's really hard to recapture that though. Those movies, it was the Jaws effect. Like it was you didn't have to show it to make it scary.
Mm-hmm.
That's what made it like Alien is a psychological thriller, whereas Aliens is an action movie, but they still didn't just show you immediately the alien. Like it was still scary.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can scare people like that these days. It's hard.
You're talking about, taking your kids to see Star Wars, which I did for my father because, he introduced me to Star Wars, but he introduced me to Alien as well.
Such a good movie.
So we've seen all the ones that have come out in the theaters. We've seen them as they've come out, and hopefully we can do the same.
So what do you think about like Prometheus and all those?
Prometheus confused me. Like it wasn't bad. Like I liked it, but I was just like, there's way too much like backstory and lore here that I just don't care about,
I legit had to watch a YouTube video recently. I'm like, you know what? I've watched all these movies. I still don't know what's happening. And that's what's great about YouTube is somebody has taken the time to explain everything to you regardless of what the topic is.
Yeah.
And somebody's like, well, here's what happened. Here's the engineers. Here's what this means. And then they take it to this. And here's why this alien looks like this, but this one looks, I go, I can't. This is too much thinking. Like, I don't watch movies to think.
Yeah. So what was the next one? Was Covenant.
Yeah.
Covenant was like, there were so many instances of like blue balls happening where you think something awesome is about to happen. And then the scene just completely shifts and it's like some like, Fassbender's character reciting, Ozymandias. Right. It's like, no, go back to the aliens attacking people. I want to see that.
That's what we want.
The only thing I liked about that was the end, which for some reason every alien movie needs to end with them discovering the alien is on the ship.
Right.
And oh, it's not actually dead. We have to have this one final battle. But there was this fantastic shot of when Sam Waterston's daughter wakes up and she's like, the alarm's going off. And then I'm still like not sure why Danny McBride was in this movie, but he was.
I totally forgot he was.
And there's just this great shot of him standing there and he's kind of like, he's off center on the screen, but he's just kind of like, it's a profile shot and he's holding like a gun or a flamethrower or something. And for like the 1 second they show that, I'm like, all right, that was a badass shot. That was, that made this movie worth watching. Just that alone. But the rest of it, I'm like, all right, this is forgettable. Like, again, it's backstory that I don't care about. And it's just Ridley Scott being Ridley Scott.
Right.
So he doesn't have a hand in this new one coming out. And this new one, Romulus, looks like it's, just going to be a straightforward alien movie, which is what I've wanted for a long time.
It looks like a horror sci-fi mix.
Mm-hmm. It's a great game.
That's what we want.
There's a great game that came out about 10 years ago called Alien Isolation. And
I've heard of it, never played it, but I do recall people loving that game.
It's the design of it. I mean, where video games are at the point now where everything just looks realistic. Like you're in the movie now, and it's got the whole aesthetic from the first film. So that retro futuristic, everything is physical and mechanical. Just like the motif and the signs and everything, but it's just one alien that's constantly hunting you. And it's a horror game. Like you got to like literally,
you can't get away.
Yeah. If you hear the thing coming, you need to shove yourself inside a locker and hope that it doesn't find you.
Oh, that's terrifying.
So that's like one of the best. Not only was that one of the best alien experiences they put out in a long time, but then they did a DLC where they got all of the surviving cast members to reprise their roles, and you're basically playing through a scene from the first Alien film, and a bunch of them have all since passed away. So for a lot of them, it was like their last acting role ever doing, just voicing their characters again. But it was so, I love that so much because it was so cool hearing, like 80-year-old Tom Skerritt playing Dallas again, telling you, what the plan is to, get the alien out of the air duct.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's me. If you're nerding out about Star Wars, I'm going to nerd out about aliens. So
it's fair. I enjoy them.
All right. So before we wrap up here, I got to know about Severin. Was Severin at least okay in person, or was his on-air shtick what you got off mic?
I wanted to say like he was nice, but I can't say that because of what he was projecting.
Okay.
Because I don't think you can be both. I don't think a nice person would do what he did on the air. I think he was proper. So that's the word I decided to use to describe it.
Okay.
Is proper. He was, by all accounts, proper to me. Like just polite in our dealings, very open to my ideas. And like took me to a Bruins game.
Okay.
Like, car service picked me up with him, like his car service, because he didn't drive from Manchester by the Sea. Like he had a car service take us to the game.
Yeah.
Again, polite the entire time. I can't reconcile his on-air presentation with how he treated me outside of that.
Mm.
Because yes, my first instinct would say, "Oh, he was a very nice guy." But what he did on air kind of conflicts with that. So I think proper is like he did what was appropriate at the time.
Okay.
I feel.
Is it hard to separate like for, you're producing his show? Are you able to just sort of tune out everything that he is doing and saying on air?
No, I could not. And what stands out is you remember the whole videotape abortion Acorn, the whole Acorn thing.
Yeah.
Where that guy who's still around somehow making up lies still, but he made those videos of some apparent pimp like paying for abortions and stuff. I might be getting all the details wrong, but basically it was exposed that whoever made I can't remember that guy's name.
James O'Keefe.
I knew it was James. I was halfway there. James O'Keefe. That came out that was heavily edited, heavily scripted, fake, made up. And he was still on the air talking about it as if that had never happened.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, I had like my lunch that included an apple or an orange or something, and I hucked it across the room. And because he was in one studio, I was in the other.
Yeah.
And like it exploded against the wall. And the computer that was running BOS was right there. Because remember, you said BOS was jockless. It literally was in my studio. It was on a wheeled rack system.
Yep.
It was just this thing of computer. I could have taken it off the air anytime. Just pew.
No, I'd been there. I'm visualizing it in my head right now.
Right. So I'm on the phones here. He's to my right.
Yeah.
The phones are here. I have a mic. He used to let me on sometimes. And BOS is to my left. And I like hucked it towards the door. I was just so pissed because he was just outright lying.
Yeah.
And it's what made me, it just made me so mad. Like, I get it. You can have opinions. You can have feelings. You can have thoughts. But don't lie when you have the responsibility of being a broadcaster is really what it was.
Right.
I was just I was bullshit. And that job, I felt like a sellout, you know, because that show certainly didn't represent anything I believed in, but I also had to pay the fucking rent.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what am I going to do? And it was an opportunity that I got. Like, I took the interviews. I interviewed well, I guess, or else nobody else was applying. I don't know. I got the job.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I went in thinking I could have some more influence. Some sort of, I don't know.
I mean,
it gave me experience though.
Yeah. I mean, he was very controversial to begin with, and that ultimately led to his downfall. But before that,
it was him saying he hired girls to bang them.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. And
the intern thing.
And he was just like very outright about that too. Like, what would you think the consequences of admitting that would be?
Well, I mean, on one hand, you have to appreciate his candor because he wasn't entirely wrong because that's how he operated, and he's not alone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you think he's the first guy in a position of power that hired an attractive girl in hopes of sleeping with her?
Yeah.
No. But at the same time, he lacked the wherewithal to go, I probably shouldn't broadcast this in a major metropolitan area, top 10 market.
Yeah.
Getting paid $1 million a year. So, I shouldn't present this on my employer's airwaves. But what's worse, hiding it or being open about it? I don't know. I don't have the answer to that.
Yeah.
But I do know he wasn't alone in it.
Was he trying to get ahead of the punch? Like, was someone blackmailing him? And
no, I think he was just trying to be cool.
Okay.
I think he was just trying to impress with his, I'm a dude. That call it toxic masculinity or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I think he was just trying. It's bravado. And hubris has done many a person in, and in his case, it did, at least at that job, because he got fired at some point, and then he was podcasting. I think The Blaze brought him on.
Yeah.
Was that Glenn Beck's thing? And
yep.
Whatever. I mean, if that guy didn't have enough money put away, that was his problem. Like I certainly wasn't making 100th of his $1 million a year.
Yeah. Producers making any money, because I did it. I can tell you. I was actually spending my there was was it like profit loss or whatever? Like I was actually spending money to work there. So
To work there, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, his ratings were very good though. I mean, he was one of the, unless I'm completely mistaken, when he was on 96.9, he was like one of the highest rated in Boston.
He was. I think when I came on, he was on the decline.
Okay.
I think people had tired of the shtick, and I think Boston had tired of, I guess, Boston Talks isn't still a thing.
No, it flipped very soon after he left.
And I think that was just the case. It was just that town was not the market for, right-wing talk radio.
Well, my uncle loved Michael Graham, my late uncle, because I remember one year at Thanksgiving dinner.
He was local, right?
He was, yeah. He did I think he did the midday show.
Yeah. Again, my memory's bad, but it's all coming back to me.
I don't mean to give you a PTSD.
No, it's fine. Like, I don't know.
Well, I just remember things.
I'm very strong in my political feelings.
Yeah.
And I just find I did 2 years of political talk while here in Connecticut in Hartford during 2016.
Oh, Jesus.
During the election. And I talked about how getting fired broke me. Well, that election broke me.
I think it broke everybody.
Being on the listen, you know what? I'm not even going to justify it. I voted for Hillary. Like, suck it if you're against it. But like, Trump has shown who he is for the past 4 decades. And if you can't see, if you think this person who is the embodiment of suckdom, of like ripping off the little guy, of getting everything he can for himself, and listen, I don't think the Bushes should have been father-son presidents. I don't think the Clintons should have been husband-wife presidents. I don't think the Kennedys should have had anything on it. But at the same time, if that's my option, I'm taking that over this flaming orange piece of shit, who has been a flaming orange piece of shit his entire life. And if you don't know his history, that's your problem for not opening a goddamn newspaper or Googling.
Yeah, I hated that guy just being on The Apprentice. I never liked him as a person.
You laughed at him, not with him. You watched the show because he was a giant moron. Oh, and it turns out he was shitting his pants the entire time and using the N-word, apparently, but we just can't get the tapes out.
Yeah.
But October, apparently, is when those tapes come out.
I'm waiting for him to, in his, I guess, downward spiral that we're witnessing right now. I'm just waiting for him to make the decision to just start dropping the M-bomb everywhere when talking about his political opponent.
It might come.
I'm waiting for it. I think it's going to happen.
The 2016 thing, it broke me because it broke what I thought I knew about people, which was at least the American populace. We always, because I grew up on G.I. Joe. Like I watched all those cartoons and I was like, man, and Hulk Hogan, eat your vitamin, say your prayers. Blah. Turns out Hulk Hogan's a flaming piece of shit. So is the Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah.
And so is Jimmy Superfly Snuka. You know who was good? The bad guys. The Iron Sheik was right. Like, what the fuck? Everything I was sold was a lie. And then, that election happens. And, Hillary's got her to blame, like, because she should have gone to a lot of those states. She didn't. She thought she had it in the bag. She didn't know that, oh, shit, he's playing to people who hate me and they're going to mobilize. There was a lot of problems with that campaign. But sitting there in the studio, I had to be there like during election and like hear this shit come in live and then talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
What
is
happening?
Now, was that a more conservative station that you were on? Like where people expecting
I was the
you
leftist person on that station.
So you could at least, you didn't have to pretend to side with people. You could voice your opinion.
Well, I've never, you know me, I don't pretend anything. Like, I don't give a shit. I had a lady come in. I hid it in my studio because I didn't want her to shoot me. But she had called in, and we were talking about abortion and the procedures and how the banning of abortion can ban procedures that are life-saving for people who are in the midst of miscarriage.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that information because we had experienced it personally.
Yeah.
And this lady wanted to argue with me, and I essentially told her to go fuck herself. Without using those words because I couldn't. It's on an FM signal.
Yeah.
And she didn't send an email. She didn't write a letter. She came to the building and started looking for, she was yelling at the receptionist looking for me. And I'm in another room. Like, I could hear this going, I'm not going out there.
Jesus.
Like, what kind of psychopath? What kind of psychopath didn't hear the message I gave her saying like, what you're asking for will hurt people who are actively trying to have children.
Yeah.
Like we were trying for our second and we just weren't having luck. And, you know, my wife needed a procedure that would have been covered under that umbrella ban they were talking about.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you out of your fucking mind?
Apparently.
And they
so.
are.
Yeah.
They literally are, because they cannot see anything but what they believe. Their experience, oh, that didn't happen to me, therefore it can't happen. It's a lack of empathy. But that election broke me. I never want to do political talk again. But I also haven't broken those habits. I check the same websites every morning. I check the same info. I keep up to date on it. And it's not healthy.
No, it's not. I do the same thing.
It gets me into trouble because maybe we're out with a couple that we know who might lean a little more conservative. And then they say something. But they say something that I know has been misconstrued by the outlet that they're, you know, regularly consuming.
Yeah.
And do I just let it sit? Or, because my wife is very much a stop. Like, she's like, I know you know more than everybody. So just let it be. You're not going to change their mind. So that's the battle. Is it fight to change their mind, which is what my gut says, or just let them be what they are and not associate with them?
Yeah. And
that was the lesson of 2016. Like, it broke a lot of relationships. It for me personally, it made me question a lot of things.
Same. The people that I very dear to me that I loved that I just haven't talked to in years because and it wasn't even like direct conversations we were having with one another. For me, it was just, you know, and eventually I just dumped Facebook altogether.
Smart move. The right move.
But I had to stop following them because I couldn't take in what they were sharing because it was all lies and it was just ridiculous. But then I also wouldn't hold back from making fun of, you know, say if Trump went off and tried to construct a sentence. Not like I'm any better, but if he tried to go out in public and construct a sentence and it came out as just incomprehensible gibberish, which is still the case today, and I would make fun of it, well, people were getting offended by that because
they're free to post their hatred all the time, but heaven forbid you make fun of Cheeto Mussolini.
I'm scared with what's going to happen this year.
I'm hoping, you know what? I was not for the switch. I kept reading him. Jon Stewart's pushing for it. A guy whose opinion I really respect, and everybody's pushing for Biden. And I go, you got an incumbent. How often do you pull an incumbent out? But the energy that has come out of it, I'm all for, and I hope it continues. I mean, I'm obviously on board with Harris. It 100%. Like any other, I'd vote for you over Trump. No offense meant, but like anybody who has even looked at his 4 years in office, like you have to, they're kidding themselves. They're delusional. And it's because they feel like they're in the team. Like, you know, when things go the way we want, we're on that until you're not. This is a guy that doesn't give a shit about anybody. And I hate that I'm still talking about it. Like, I don't want to see his fucking name ever again.
Oh, me neither. I will be so happy when we don't have to talk about him anymore. When it's not a daily thing. But then don't worry, his
kids are still there. And that's, God.
I do.
But yeah, so and that's the thing about Severin. You talk about those people that were friends, and Severin was the same. Like, I could say he was proper and polite, but I could never call him nice because of the beliefs he held.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I feel about a lot of the people that I thought I knew.
When I was at Entercom at WRKO, the morning show was hosted by Tom Finneran, who is Spaz once referred to him as the criminal down the hall. And then who's the other guy? Todd Feinberg. And I never listened to their show. I mean, I had no reason to. I mean, we were on at the same times. But I also made it a point not to get invested in that because I just knew what, you know, direction, what side RKO skewed towards. And I know Finneran's a Democrat, but like I didn't listen to their show, so I can't like really understand like what their content was. But off the air, Finneran was the nicest guy. He made it a point to learn everybody's name. I remember there were a couple times I would need to go pull audio that they had. And every time I asked if I could, he was always cordial. He was always nice. I'm like, this is what I want to know. And this is what I want to keep it to. I don't want to talk anything else. Like, you want to tell me about like your summer house and everything? Perfect. Let's keep it at that. If you start talking about, the issues that you're passionate about, nope. Because that's not the person I want to know. I want to know the very polite felon that I happen to work with every day, driving your Toyota RAV4 with the burnt out headlight that you never replaced in the 4 years I worked with you. I like this Tim Walz guy. I knew nothing about him until today when the VP pick was made. And
I was for why can't I think of his name now? Arizona.
Kelly.
Astronaut.
Mark Kelly. Me too.
But this makes sense. It's a solid pick.
The first thing I learned about...
What do I know, though? Again, it's like sports. Like, if you pick this one, we're going to win the big one. But then, it's the same thing. Like, we don't know. But I think it's a good move.
Yeah, the first thing I learned about him was that he signed a bill to ensure that kids in public schooling get free lunch and free breakfast. And just a photo of him, like, with all these kids hugging him. And I'm like, yeah, you're huffing glue if you're against this. And if you,
but there are people against it. My taxes,
yeah.
My taxes. Well, let's see. We're forcing these kids to go to these places every day. Why shouldn't your taxes pay for it? These people don't understand that that's what the government exists for, is to provide services.
Yeah.
Guess what? Services don't bring you a return on investment. Do we ask the military how much money they're bringing us every year, or the police? Although the police are making themselves money with civil forfeiture, but we won't talk about that.
That's for the next episode.
But, they're always like, they'll back the military and they'll back the police. But hey, where's our return on investment? Why are we wasting money on children? Are you really the person that says, why are we wasting money on kids? They are, though. Like, they're fucking terrible people.
Yeah.
And it drives me crazy. Yes, I would rather kids eat a healthy breakfast, because guess what? There's some shitty parents out there. Like, anybody can have a kid, and some people probably shouldn't, but we can't control that, because then we're getting into a whole nother thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we as a community have to do our best. Community, communism, look out. We have to do what we can to make their lives as good as we can, because they're kids. They're innocent. I know, Catholicism, Christians, whatever, original sin, they're guilty the minute they're born. Until we wash them in this bath by this weirdo in robes, like, they're kids. Like, just help them.
Yeah.
But they don't want to. They don't want to help anybody that isn't their in crowd, and it just drives me crazy.
Do you feel like the right side too is finding they're really grasping for straws, trying to find ways that they can cut down walls? They're just, it's a stretch, and I'm, maybe they'll get a little more creative with it. As we get closer to November.
For the weird thing, and I love it.
Oh, I didn't even know that until today.
Weird is amazing.
That is so funny. I didn't even know that until today. One of my co-hosts brought that up. He's like, yeah, he started the whole weird thing. I'm like, of course, that's why he got the gig.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. They're just weird. It's weird. Look how he touches his daughter. He's weird. Look at his coked out son. He's weird. Look at the son whose name he doesn't know. That's weird. He should know his name.
So is Kamala looking at Mark Kelly and being like, look, I get it. Your wife survived an assassination attempt. You've been to space multiple times. You're a senator now. But this guy called Trump weird, and everyone's rolling with it. I gotta go with him.
Yeah, it's a tough conversation to have, I'm sure. That's the other. There's just so much bullshit we don't know and we don't see, and I just want our politicians to make good decisions for us. That's all. Not go out to hurt people who are part of our our country. Like, sorry guys, gays, transsexuals, people of color, immigrants, they're all part of the country.
I just hope that this wave that we're riding right now, this high, is still here in 3 months. Because it's like this turnaround has been significant, and I'm so scared
I've felt excited about Democrats, and I'm not registered. Like, I'm an independent just because I just want them to know the dissatisfaction with both of them. Like, I want to raise that number so they're just like, oh shit, people aren't saying they're one or the other. But I'm certainly left leaning.
Yeah, same.
Because I care about people. Sue me. And this is the first time watching them actively do what they're doing, probably since Obama. And then Obama let me down in that second term. Like, hey, buddy, you're leaving. Why not go full force? He's like, no, I'm going to be nice. Well, look what happened. Now we have a very conservative Supreme Court. So, hey, guys, let's not be nice.
Right.
I don't know if you thought that's how this would wrap up.
No, that's that. I mean, it's the big news of the day. So it's unavoidable at this point. I mean, it's going to be what this show is going to be, if not intentionally covering, then devolving into, which I'm totally fine with. I was just going to put the PSA out there, and I should probably end every episode with this. Go vote and make sure you're registered to vote. Actually,
that's the thing. There's one party that's trying to take away your right to vote. That's all I'll say. Go Google that and see who's making it more difficult for veterans, people of color, and the general public to vote. Who's the one pushing laws that makes it so you can't hand out water to people who are standing in long lines or snacks? There is one party doing that, and that is the party you should probably be against.
Yep.
Because everybody in this country should have the right to vote, except for felons, but they get to run for office.
Vote.org. You can check your voter registration there and make sure you are there. I did that recently, and then I was reminded that as a joke several years ago, because Massachusetts has several of the affiliations.
Were you a Jedi? I hope you were a Jedi.
I was part of the pizza party.
Oh, there you go. I like pizza.
I liked it too.
I'll see you Sunday at the Connecticut Pizza and Brew Fest in Bridgeport. Hartford Healthcare Amphitheater. Get your tickets now. ctpizzaandbrewfest.com.
I have that bell and I always forget it's there.
I am a pro. I still got it. I'm not on air, but I still got it.
That was good. That was really good. I'd be remiss if I didn't play this.
That's just, again, another stupid example of that stupid show. We pulled that from the song, and we would just, somebody would be like, what time is it? Oh, it's 10:45. And somebody just yelled, there was songs that just had that dip in them, like 311. They have a song, AFI, Boxcar Racer, where it's just silence. And we would throw Mike Murphy in there. Just somebody saying, Mike Murphy. Like, we would play bits like that on the air. And that was the stupid stuff that made it awesome. God, I wish I could remember some of the others, but like, there's no rhyme or reason to it. It just happened. But 45, if we had been smarter, I think actually we did print shirts with the number 45 on it. They might have looked like socks shirts. I don't remember. Again, you have to ask the guys that remember things.
Well, when we had Charlie here, I completely forgot to play that. I had it sitting in front of me. It was queued up, and not once did I actually remember to play it. But I do love, because your YouTube channel, Another Day In, still exists, and this is on there.
Really?
Yeah, and this is on there.
Hey, what's going on, Sandbox? This is Brent from the band Shinedown. 45!
Oh my God, he gave us the 45. I remember that. But the thing is, I don't know the login. I created that page. The email address doesn't exist anymore. I don't know how to retrieve that page.
It's all on there. It's mostly band performances. You go on there, Taking Back Sunday is up there, Gaslight Anthem.
And it was called Another Day In because the show name came from somebody saying, oh, Another Day in the Sandbox, huh? Talking about me working with the guys in Richmond.
Yeah.
That's where the name came from. And so some asshole had the Sandbox on YouTube. He never posted anything, but we couldn't have it, so we just made it Another Day In.
I do recall the conversation in our group chat where I think Fletcher offhand mentioned the channel, and everyone was like, "Wait a minute, that's still there?" And I'm like,
"Right, that blows my mind. Like, you figured it hasn't been logged into in a decade or more. Like, just shut it down, guys."
But you got some really well engineered performances on here from and a lot of these bands that are on here are all still together.
Charlie ran the audio and I ran the video. So he did the sound, and I would edit it together.
Yeah, I mean,
from like I had 3 flip cams, and I would just do the cut in, again, a bootlegged Sony Vegas, because certainly FNX wasn't paying for the software.
you got bands on here that have like since taken off and have gotten big, and it's just like, it's so funny going on this channel and just here they are just playing on FNX, and they're gonna play the best music poll, free show, Government Center. That
just happened. That was an anniversary of the 2009 show. Airborne Toxic event.
I was there. I fucking loved it. In fact, when we were talking about how nice the FNX street team was when I arrived at the show, just there as a fan, someone from the street team recognized me and just ran over to me and gave me a hug. And I'm like, wow, if you were from BCN, you'd be flipping me off and spitting at me. Yeah. Airborne Toxic event. I left when the Bravery came on, and I wish I'd stayed. Paul Driscoll
loved the Bravery.
Oh, I wish I'd stayed for that. That was the first time I saw Gaslight Anthem play live, and I was just like, I had only like heard one song. I didn't have any of their albums yet, and I was just like, this is phenomenal. I love these guys. Good. And then Airborne Toxic event, I remember, the only song anybody knew, and they only had their one album at the time, was Sometime Around Midnight. They play that. It's anthemic. It's epic. And then I think they knew that they would lose the crowd after performing that song, so they followed it up with a cover of Goodbye Horses. Yeah,
they're such a good band, and they were so nice. And I followed that career. I still listen to those records. Those records are great.
Mikkel Jolet's always he posts a lot of controversial takes.
He's very political.
He's very political on Twitter, but it's like, he's unless I'm completely misinterpreting it, I mean, he's calling out everything that you just were. He's just calling out the bullshit.
Pretty much.
And
we're very similar. We're both artists and handsome and talented.
So many people are, flipping out whenever they see one of his posts go viral. And then I always scroll through to see the one guy who's like, but he's in the Airborne Toxic event. That's a really good band. All right. We will leave it at that. Ed, like I said at the beginning of this episode, I've wanted to do something like this with you for a very long time, and I'm happy it finally happened.
Well, I hope it was everything you wanted, and that it lived up to your expectations. I'm sure it didn't, which I'm used to disappointing. It's fun.
Yeah, you've come to the right place.
I don't do this very often. I haven't done it in a long time. Like I said, I'm not I fill in on the air for like stupid music shifts. But I like talking to people. I like throwing ideas around and experiencing what other people like. It's interesting to hear about what you did on the video game side as a consumer of that stuff. Like, this is fun. I'm available whenever you need me.
Awesome.
Me and my couch on the back porch.
Hell yeah. No, absolutely. I can't wait to do this again. At some point, if I can finagle getting Charlie here as well, that'll be great. And if we can get Fletcher involved too. But
somebody's got hotkeys.
But
listen, here's the thing about those sounds. I don't think people in radio use them enough anymore. Like, it's an audio format. Like, use those drops, people. Like, it adds something. It adds pizzazz.
I have when I wanted to get into radio and then podcasting. This is going back to 2006. What I wanted was a soundboard that I could just fire off sound drops. And
now they're on iPads. You just get the app.
Right. You know what I'm using? I use Winamp. Remember Winamp?
Oh yeah. It kicks the llama's ass.
Winamp. It really whips the llama's ass.
Whips. Damn it. My old brain is misremembering things.
But that's what once I figured that out, that's what I use my soundboard for. And like 1,000 sound drops that I've amassed over the years, and we'll go entire episodes without me firing a single one.
No, that's a sin. You should. It's a crime.
A lot of times it's just trying to find the right moment to do it, but then it's you have the thing in front of you, and you have a half second to cue it up.
Timing is key. You got to be. Our saying was always, who can be funnier faster?
Yeah,
and that's it. It's true to this day. It's like where somebody's got to get that joke out first, and sometimes somebody's a half second behind them, and it's like, no, I should have been there.
Yeah. even if like, the moment has passed, I'll still, have everybody. I'm like, hey, I got to go back to this so I can play this drop, and then I'll play it. But there was and I think I remember I let Mike have control of the board at one point, and then I had to rescind access. But we were listening to an old clip from like 2009 or 2010 of this show, and just the amount of sound drops that were being played, I'm like, that's bad. Yeah,
right.
this is
there's a fine line. You're overdoing it.
Yeah, I think, and it could have been me. It probably was me, but I also remember the one time I let someone else have reign over it. I took it back immediately because I'm like, that's too much.
And these kids today, they don't know. Like, I had to go through DVDs. I had to sit there and like remember the scene and find it, and then have the recorder hooked up from the output on a DVD player. Now they just go to YouTube because somebody has clipped that 10 seconds of audio they want and put it up as its own thing.
Yeah.
They've got it so easy.
I'm coming from the early days of YouTube, and I, would always, after like a new episode of Family Guy would air, someone would upload clips to it on YouTube, but it was like very clearly recorded off their TV. So for a long time, I just had these very low quality sound drops that I would play, but I'm like, this episode just aired. It's funny. It's relevant.
It's topical.
But, yeah.
Sounds like it's underwater, but we're first.
But it is just so easy now to get just to anything.
Spoiled. You kids are spoiled.
I know. And it only makes me think about how you and I could be millionaires right now if we had just marketed.
If somebody had realized my greatness in 2007.
I'm on Threads. This podcast is on Threads, Hardly Focused. And I actually made a quip. Every once in a while, I'll say something on Threads, and then I get notifications like all day, like people reacting to it, and then it'll tell you if you hit milestones. It'd be like, oh, your thread got 5,000 views or whatever, and it's something that I put no effort into, and it was a response to someone talking about how the word podcast, it came from a combination of broadcast and iPod, and I left a comment where, quite literally, for the first 6 years that I was doing this, people would always come up to me. I'd tell them about the show, and then they'd always go, "Do I need an iPod to listen to your show?" And like, no, you don't. But because it had pod in it, everyone just assumed, oh, I can't listen. I don't have an iPod. I don't know how to listen to it. I'm like, bro, there's a link. You have a computer? Click that link. You can listen to it. You don't need to put it on your iPod.
Yeah, it's hard. It's still hard. There's people like grown adults who I feel have seen the same technology I have over the years who just don't get it. Still don't get it. They're like, how do I listen to a radio on the internet?
You can master the internet and the World Wide Web.
Perfect. See, that's how you do it. I had it queued up. It was right in front of me.
Well, there you go.
I'm glad I was able to show it off at least once.
Well, I appreciate you having me. This was a lot of fun, and I probably talked way too long. But I have things to say. I got things to say. I got 15 years welled up and ready to chat.
And I'm sure there's you've been waiting for the opportunity to do it. And,
my wife doesn't want to hear it, so you got all of it. Well, you got a tenth of it probably.
There will always be a platform here for you, for the 6 people who are very dedicated to this podcast.
Which is more than we're playing that major video game release. So
yeah, exactly. Remember, we have more people listening than than there are playing Suicide Squad. So all right. Well, I appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Of course, it was a pleasure.
For the rest of you, thank you for listening. We will talk at you next time. See ya. Bye.
Goodbye.
Magnetization may not have happened.
This has been a presentation of the Solid Listen Podcast Network.